Oh, hey, I'm glad you're here. I look forward to this episode all year. I'm joined by two of my favorite podcasters, voices on film, and all around excellent people. The topic: our favorite films of 2024. So I hope you have a pad and pen ready because this is quite the celebration of cinema. We have multiple genres covered, and we each bring films the other hasn't seen and sometimes even heard of. I know. So I won't make you fast forward through another of my long intros. I will just say that if you enjoy this podcast, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review. Wherever you listen, wherever your friends listen. Just help share the word. I appreciate it. All of our original episode art can be found at vhspodcast.threadless.com, and I am back to posting on the Patreon. This week, you can read all about Cyborg Cop. So let's get to the episode. The films are our favorites of 2024. The guests are Ryan and Lindsay, and this is VH Us. Greetings and salutations. This is VHS, and I'm your host, Dirk Marshall. Welcome to our annual Top 10 Movies of the Year episode. I'm joined, as usual, by Lindsay Wilkins. Welcome back.
Hello.
And Ryan Goland. Welcome back.
Well, thank you for having me.
Already going well.
Were we supposed to say something really quick? I just didn't know. I didn't. Were we supposed to say hi? It's 3 years in. I don't know how to do this.
Yep. You just make a sound, and then we just move on. Ryan, how is... I'm waiting for you to take a drink. How is New World Pictures podcast going?
Oh, it's going really badly, Dirk. I don't know how we're going to continue. I can't help but make that joke every time. It's not a good one, but I can't help but make it. It's going great. It's going great. The podcast is going really well. We're just starting into a brand new year. We don't do seasons, but like you do, but we just the train just keeps chugging along.
Yep.
Yeah, we're already through our Fanuary, which is where we watched movies that were picked by the audience. We had the Worldies, which you were a part of.
Oh, thank you.
Lindsay, I tried to get you, but it was too last minute, but I tried.
And I didn't check my inbox, which was not helpful.
It's not your fault. It's mine and my terrible organization. And every year I'm like, I'll do the Worldies early. And every year I do them way too late. So anyway, so we did that celebration of last year. We're doing Fanuary. We're about to go into a new month of foreign films, Foreign Film February. So we're going to be talking about a bunch of foreign movies, and we'll be doing some more women in prison movies. We got a lineup pretty well set up for the first half of the year. So we're actually getting organized. 6 years in, you start to get organized. That's the rule, right?
Perfect. Lindsay, how is Schlock and Awe going?
Completely disorganized. And I don't think even 6 years in, I'm going to be finally learned how to organize this thing. No, it's going good. I still love it. It's great.
Perfect. Well explained. So how's it going?
Wait, we could give short answers? I didn't realize that.
No, I prefer long. Long is better. Long, meandering, as long as possible. As per tradition, we each have selected 10 movies from the 2024 year that are our favorites, be that whatever requirements that meets or criteria. Lindsay, how was this year for you?
It was good. This year was quite strange because it was either some of the most amazing movies I have ever seen in my life or some of literally the worst movies I have ever seen in my life, with really an in between. So, Dirk, if we could do a top 20 this year, I would really appreciate it.
Perfect. No. Ryan, how was this year for you?
Top 20 would also be great for me. Good. Every year I try to force myself to watch more and more new movies. We delve in movies that are 30, 40, 50 years old. So
Mm,
to try to find time to catch all the newer stuff, and not just the newer stuff like in the movie theater, but really dive in.
mhm.
So I watched more this year than I have watched in the past 2 years. And I totally agree with Lindsay's assessment. I have seen some incredible films and I've seen some awful stuff, some of the worst stuff I've ever seen. Oh my God, there's a movie I saw that from France that was just the worst thing I've ever seen. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Uh-oh.
I won't mention it.
Uh-oh.
And I won't be choosing it today. But this was really very difficult because I'm trying to pick personal best and not just like great films,
Right.
not the top movies. So this one I have, because I saw more movies and we took a little bit of a break and gave me some time because of the LA fires. I dug into some more films and then it made this list even more difficult for
Yeah.
me to put together. So this one's hard. It's hard this year.
Yeah, for me, my 10 films I've already rewatched. They're films I'll return to again. For some, it's because it's a good time. For others, they had like an emotionally resonant piece, which sometimes that's not my top 10, but I still would return to them. So basically, my 2 through 9 have all been in different positions. I've reworked them. They've been in the top, they've been in the lower part. There's so many great movies this year that I had 20 easy. So by the time I distilled it to 10, I basically have one number one and 9 number twos, which sounds disgusting, but it just. So anyway, as we in previous top tens, we do
We've all
employ.
had 9 number twos, Dirk.
Yeah.
I mean,
in our
to be
day.
fair, it does have a hot sauce company, so I'm
Yeah.
sure that happens quite a bit with the testing process.
I do. I hear a lot about people's number twos, unfortunately.
You've given me several hot number twos.
Oh God!
Yes.
Wow.
It's your hot
Okay.
sauce alone.
This
So
is awkward. In previous top tens, we do employ the Bromley rule, which means if somebody has a film higher in their list, we'll talk about it in its higher position. This year, we've also added one new thing to make the episode even more special: predictions. All three of us have attempted to predict each other's top 10 lists of 2024. Now, we won't reveal it as we go through. We'll save it for the end, but we each will award 1 point for any correct answer if we pick somebody's movie in their top 10, and then you get 5 points if it's in the correct position too. So there you go. That's all I have for this up top banter part, because sometimes these podcasts, I don't know if you guys have been listening to them, they tend to go on a bit before they get to the whole reason you're listening to
What?
the episode. I know.
never when
We
I'm
have
on.
Yeah.
Never when
that,
I'm
and
on.
that never happens
Not
on my
once.
podcast. Efficiency is the.
I listened to one, it was like an hour and 15 minutes. It was their top 10 movies of the year. 30 minutes of it wasn't even the top 10. I was just like, when are we going to get to these movies? But luckily, they had nothing to say really about the films. So let's get started right away with Lindsay. What is your number 10?
Okay, this is difficult because I could just do like a tie, but I think I've made a decision. But I am going to go for an Iranian movie called My Favorite Cake. Now, I apologize, I'm going to butcher the director's names. Myram Mogadim and Bitash Sinea, I think. I couldn't find a pronunciation.
Nailed it.
Killed it.
Yeah, nailed it. That's exactly.
Done.
It's just
You got it.
fluent
Stick
Persian.
a fork in it. That
This
cake.
movie is amazing. They made it in secret because a lot of Iranian movies you have to make in secret, and the directors and I think the two leads are in house arrest at the moment. But it is about this elderly couple, or this elderly woman whose husband has died, and she's living this very kind of quiet, isolated life. She can't visit her friends because of her bad knees, and they all live on the top floor of apartments. So basically, what she decides to do is cruise for a man around Tehran. In which she does find this very nice elderly taxi driver. I mean, she goes to the park, she goes everywhere. She's literally cruising. It's amazing. She stalks this very nice other elderly taxi driver, and they have this a most amazing night together. But kind of, I guess this spoilers. This movie will cut you to the bone, but it is watching this relationship play out over one night, and it's kind of amazing. It's really just two actors in a house, kind of reliving their youth days before the revolution. And it's incredible.
Ryan, have you heard of this?
I have heard of it. I have not seen it.
I haven't even heard of it. This is amazing. I was just telling Lindsay pre-record that I just came across a movie that I was like, how have I not come across this? It was from the States. And now you've just introduced me to another one, My Favorite Cake.
My Favorite Cake.
I don't know how I heard of this, but I've heard of it. And I don't know, but I have not seen it.
Wow.
I don't know if it's streaming in the States anywhere
I don't
or
think it is. I think it's just starting to stream in Europe and a little bit in Australia. So it's probably going to be technically a 2025 movie when people get to
mm,
see it. Sorry, I do have a few 2020, technically 2023s going in there as well.
I believe you did the same thing last year with
Yes.
that Das Machian or whatever his name is, Late Night with the Devil.
Yes, yes, and that now everyone's top 10 this
Because
year. Sorry, I should
we
stop
didn't
doing
have
that.
that yet, and no, it's
Yeah.
great because it gives me something to look forward to. So that's perfect. My favorite
Yes.
cake. I will definitely watch that. Ryan, that brings us to your
oh God.
number 10.
Okay,
It's not a tie.
it's not a tie. Yeah. So again, Dirk, you put it very well, but this is all about like for me were like movies that I emotionally resonated with that made me like think and maybe pause. There's
Hmm.
some movies that I probably are not on my list for a couple of reasons. One, I think maybe you guys might pick it.
Oh, I do that
So
too.
so I don't know. I'm gonna roll the dice and I don't know if that's gonna come out. But another thing was just I wanted to find something that resonated with me, which is why I've been poring over this list for weeks now, trying to figure out. And so at long last, this is the one that I actually have on physical media, at least at this moment. And for my number 10, I'm gonna do Sometimes I Think About Dying,
Mm.
which
Ooh.
is a movie that I've now watched a couple times, listened to the commentary on this oscilloscope disc. And I love movies that basically are created within the context of the character. And I feel like the way this film is shot, and it is shot so amazingly, it's every shot is beautifully composed in this movie. And frankly, the commentary was a little disappointing, but what they do talk about is the composition of the shots, and they are
Yep.
gorgeous. They are gorgeous. And they look like a lot of the character. And the character, the main character in this, is played by Daisy Ridley of Star Wars fame, doing an American accent quite well. And she works in an office, and it's a very like, your average boring like office, but filled with a bunch of nice people. As somebody who has worked in many offices, I really that really resonated with me, and it's sort of a little bit to me about like what your day job means to you, whether it's your passion or not your passion. And there's another person in the office that sort of is defined by being in this office, and just a little bit about that they nail the sort of office life experience. The ups, the downs, the boring things, the sort of lies that you tell coworkers, like just to not let them know you per se, like little things like that. Like, and there's a new guy that comes to the office. They start to sort of date, but Daisy Ridley is she's a very like withdrawn person, possibly on the spectrum. They never really discuss it, but she's very withdrawn and she thinks a little bit about suicide and she's not very able to be social. And it's very hard for her to come out of her shell and she doesn't really quite. So it's a sort of about her. It's all about her. And I think the whole movie is designed around her point of view. And I found that just so interesting. And I haven't been able to stop thinking about the movie. And it just really, really struck me. Sometimes I Think About Dying is my number 10.
All right. I love that. I haven't seen it, so this is now on my list. I'll probably just buy it after your recommendation, but
I hope you like it. Again, it's shot in Oregon.
no, never mind.
So, so you may not, I was about to say, you may not like that.
No, I don't. I will.
There's a lot of shots, even when they're shooting people, there's a lot of negative space behind them.
Cool.
There's just a lot of that element of it where I feel like they're just composing everything to be just this sort of withdrawn, sort of empty feeling that she has a lot of the time. I just was really taken with it.
All right. Perfect. Lindsay, have you seen this one yet?
No, I have heard of it,
Nice.
and it was kind of on the list of things I needed to get to watch, and I didn't get to watch them. Now it's just jumped up the thing of things I do need to watch. So yeah, this sounds amazing.
Perfect. All right. I'll class it up with my number 10. It's
All right.
here we go. It's from France. It's animated.
But shot in Oregon.
It's shot in Oregon. Released in the US on May 3rd, 2024. It's Mars Express. Okay, directed by
I knew it. I knew there was going to be like a ton of movies I hadn't even heard
Well,
of.
all right.
directed
So
by
far, my predictions are for shit. So
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yes.
Same.
So far, I'm going great.
directed by Jeremy Perrin. It is a cyberpunk noir, perhaps. The premise is Aline Ruby and her partner are hired by a businessman to track down a hacker. On Mars, they explore the planet's capital city where they find a missing girl who holds the secret that robots are under a threat, and this could change the entire universe. Recently, with my guest Chris Boylan, I asked him if there was anything as an animator that I should be seeing this year. He mentioned Mars Express. I had seen the key art, but not press play because I was like, yeah, I don't watch a lot of cartoons, but I'm trying to like watch more animated features and things. So I pushed play on it, and it just really grabbed me. The synth score, the engrossing story, unusually complex characters and relationships, really efficient world building, and it was just thoroughly engaging. So the whole thing just kind of washed over me, and it was one of those things where I was like, I kind of want to go back into that world. And so I rewatched it again and was just like, yeah, I mean, this just deserves to be in this spot. There was a lot of things that it's knocking off, but there's nothing like it that I saw this year. And so I've been telling anyone that likes science fiction to check it out because this is easily something that could not get press play on. And, you know, if it was on Netflix, it would get more eyes. I found it on Amazon. I'll definitely be buying it. And the thing about non-English language films now is most people are either of the age or they're doing it anyway, where we have the subtitles on in our own language. So, like, let's just give into the fact that subtitles are no longer a stigma, and let's just watch some movies from around the world. So, Mars Express.
That sounds awesome. It is on my watch list.
I thought for a second maybe I have seen it, but that's Mars Attacks.
Ah, yes.
So, yeah. So
it's the re-release of Mars Attacks, my number 10.
That sounds awesome. I have not seen it, nor had I heard of it.
Oh,
so
perfect. Great.
Yeah.
So we've already got 3 films that most of us have not heard of that we're going to watch. So this is so much better than I thought it was going to be, where we all just picked the same 10 movies, which has never happened.
Never happened. I'm glad that you were coming at it, though, going, we'll see.
Oh, we're all going to have it on there. Lindsay, what's your number 9?
As you will soon see with this top 10 list, most of my movies are a vibe, and I like them because of the vibe.
Nice.
So my number 9 is going to be The First Omen. I went to this expecting it to hate it, and then directed by Akasha Stevenson, it is a prequel to The Omen, which should not work, and the fact that the director is not interested in Damien until she has to be, which is not my number 9 because the ending is dog shit. But the first, like 90 minutes are kind of incredible. From the first moment when you see this prologue with Charles Dance, I started to lean forward going, wait, has someone made a good Omen prequel? No, and it was until it wasn't. But Akasha Stevenson makes a mood piece. This is very, very influenced by Possession. In fact, everyone was going, Nell Tiger Free should just be in Possession. I'm like, well, guys, do we need to remake Possession? No, we don't. But it's just nightmare logic. And the fact that they let her do this and it bombed, of course, because it was always going to, but you watch it and you realize it's just so well done. It's just her putting cool images on screen, and I was all for that.
Ryan, you had your fists in the air.
Something because
I'm sorry, I forgot the Bromley rule. Oh my god.
No. It was only because of my predictions.
Okay.
That's all. Which again, we're not talking about, but that was why I was fist pumping. Yes, I saw The First Omen. It's a big year for American nuns being sent to Italy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is.
And this was one of them.
Yeah.
I saw this in the theater.
Oh, wow.
And with a couple buddies. And I love the director. I love the way she shot this. This didn't work for me in the same level, but I am so curious what Akasha Stevenson does next. I thought she really killed it in terms of the style of this. Also, several movies also going after possession. So I love the possession love that this year brought from cinema.
Oh, yeah.
So I agree, though, that also it's amazing that they did make this movie, which is a prequel to a well-rung series, be as interesting as it was. Because you just don't go in thinking this is going to be anything good. And I was at least like really taken with how stylish it was made and how well it was made and crafted. So I was like, wow, well, I meant to check out other stuff that the director had done, but I haven't been able to, but very curious what she does next.
Yeah,
I think she's only ever done that I know is Channel Zero. So she did season 2, I think. Mm-hmm. But I don't think she's done much. So this is, she's definitely a director to watch.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, I wouldn't have watched this if it hadn't been for like at least 50 people telling me like, no, it's really good, I'm just like, not interested, man. Like, this just isn't my thing. And then I push play on it, and it looked really good. And I was like, okay. And then I started watching the characters and what was going on. And then there's this whole revolution situation and this part where the car accident situation. And then there's like a shot I won't spoil for people, but I was like, I'm surprised that's in a mainstream movie. And so there was like a lot that, except, what you're talking about, Lindsay, where they stitch it into the Omen franchise. I was just like,
Yes.
outside of that, it's really interesting. And I don't usually go for these kind of like possession, anything where they're like, and then she's saved by a priest. I'm like, I'm not into this, but like,
Well, she was not saved by a priest, so
Yeah.
which I kind of like.
yeah, but the devil stuff's great. It's it's very fun. Yeah, I'm so glad this is on here. It was in my honorable mentions, and it was on my list at one point and was knocked off by probably a French thing. But Ryan, what is your number 9?
Okay, so I've talked about how I have like belabored this list, as I'm sure you both have too. This is one that has been on here and has never left. And I will just preface this by saying this is not the best movie of the year, but this is a movie that I'm like, I really truly don't know who else this was made for. There's only so many people that this movie was made for, and I'm talking about Saturday Night.
And I knew this was going to be on your list, and I didn't even predict it. Oh, this is
Me
so
too, actually.
stupid because you read the book.
Actually, I'm very angry at myself. I'm like, actually, why didn't I put this on the list? This is such a Ryan movie.
Yeah. I read the book Saturday Night from Doug Hill and Jeff Weingrad probably 3 times when I was in high school. I was obsessed with sketch comedy and goth music as a kid. The two flavors that go together so well. And and I just loved that book. I just was obsessed with it, obsessed with sketch comedy. That's not to say that I think Saturday Night Live is the best thing ever, but it has been a constant in my life, and it's been around for the whole lives of many generations now. It's not as revered because it's kind of like this just institution, and it's not something that is a global thing, which is why I think internationally it didn't do incredibly well. I mean, people don't know Saturday Night Live, and I think it's really like, who knows the history of it other than a few random people like me who were obsessed about the beginnings of it. I mean, I only came in the 80s, so like I didn't know anything about the original cast. I never saw a lot of those episodes. But I knew all this stuff. So when I was watching this movie, we watched it on my birthday, my wife Erica and I, and because I wanted to see it, and in the theater, and I was like, yeah, the bricks for the stage. Yes, Michael O'Donoghue is a huge part of this movie, as he absolutely should be, because he is just a pillar of which Saturday Night Live grew up. He was the rebel spirit that maybe they didn't always embrace. And so there were so many things. And that book is what brought me to move out to Chicago to study improv, to where I eventually met my wife, where I worked for several different companies like the Second City, which is where I had heard a lot of people from Saturday Night Live came to because of this book. This movie was just me going, yes, 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 because all these facts are in this book. But again, I can recognize that may not work for everybody. It didn't work for my wife, who was like, leaned over to me at one point. Was like, when are they going to get to the show? And I was like, well,
they're not going to get to the show.
It's not the movie. That's not what this movie is. And the ticking clock and the 90 minutes leading up, it doesn't totally work narratively, but it's really just supposed to inspire the panic and the sort of craziness of doing the show, which is, if anyone's done a sketch show, that's how they always are. But certainly Saturday Night Live, every week going live, it's just it's chaos suddenly coming together. But I just loved it, loved the performances. I just was like, this is my thing. This is absolutely for me. And I get if nobody even liked this movie, it didn't do super well, and I'm not surprised, because how many like nerds were like, yay, Saturday Night Live trivia facts live on stage. I just don't know how many people that was made for, but I loved it. And it was something that, was made for me. So that's why it's on my list at number 9.
Well said.
Yes, well said. I love the fact that they kept John Belushi insisted on keeping him in that bee outfit for the whole entire time, and he looked so miserable.
He hated the bees. Hated the
He hated
bees.
the bees. My favorite scene is with Tracy Letts when he's basically describing Chevy Chase's career as it is going to go
Yep.
until the present. One, Tracy Letts rules, and
Yep.
two, that scene just kind of, I don't know, it was just it. Yeah, this movie was a moment of scenes I really, really liked, and some I didn't. So,
Sure. Sure.
but that's kind of how the movie's structured. But no, it's when that movie hits, it really hits.
Yeah, Tracy Letts is great as Herb Sargent. He was the longtime writer, main writer of Weekend Update, and an old school writer. I just love, again, any of those pieces being in there to me was just like, yes. I actually really dug how much they gave Dick Ebersol, who really is like
Yeah,
he's as responsible. I mean, you're going to give more to Lorne because, of course, he's been with the show for so long, and where the show went is really more because of Lorne. But it was all birthed with Dick Ebersol, and he eventually took over for Gene Domanian in the 80s, who took over for Lorne. So I mean, there's so much of it that I just completely liked. But again, it's just me like seeing stuff I had read time and time again just come to life, and I was fully on board, even though I knew the timeline wasn't working. Some of the sketches that they sort of inferred, I'm like, I didn't come till later, but who cares? Like,
Yeah.
like all that
yeah,
stuff. Even John's upset with being a bee. That wasn't a thing. What was a thing was him signing the contract. But and I think they did some characters, not they didn't give too much. It's tough. It's such an ensemble piece from the crew to the cast to the producers. And I don't think they kind of gave everybody, particularly the women, I think got a little short shrift.
yeah.
That said, they also did on the show.
Yes.
So so anyway, I totally dug it, and it was just a movie for me. A kid who loved sketch comedy and goth music.
Yeah. I was just bummed they didn't have Joe Flaherty in there. I mean, he was like the heart of the show, right? I
It's
mean,
totally 100%,
m-
100%.
maybe I'm thinking of
Yep, Rick
something.
Moranis too.
Yeah, he was, and yeah, Doug McKenzie. I mean, get me
Okay,
started on that. Okay, well, that's something else. People don't send any letters. My number 9.
Did you see Saturday Night? You didn't see it, right?
I didn't see it.
I
I
know you didn't.
I got as far as the cover looking just like Hundreds of Beavers, and that's all I got. But
It was really similar to Hundreds of
It
Beavers,
was.
and
It
I
was.
thought
yeah.
I thought about watching it, but I didn't. So my number 9 is I the Executioner. This is this is directed by Ryu Sung-won. It's a South Korean action comedy. It's a sequel to a 2015 film Veteran. It stars Hwang Jung-min and Jung Hae-in. It's an older and younger detective kind of story where they get paired together to catch a killer. It's really well acted. The fights are insane. So it starts off kind of light and silly, and you kind of get this feeling of as they catch this online casino people that it's like, oh, this is going to be a very quirky comedy action movie. And then it quickly shifts gears to like, there's this psychopath who is out murdering basically killers that don't get processed to people's liking through the judicial system. And then the cop and the younger cop are trying to find this person. But there's a rooftop sequence that happens in the rain, which has some of the craziest fight choreography I saw this year, and that kind of stuff. Like previous years, if you listen to our lists, there's usually one movie on mine that I'm just like, I watched this over and over and over. These fight scenes are crazy, and this is that. There's a sequence on stairs that I don't think I'll ever get out of my brain, and probably because I rewatched it 3 times. But I the Executioner is my selection for my number 9. Put it on your lists. Keep an eye out. I don't know where it's streaming, but it is well worth a look. And you don't have to watch the first film if you don't want to. It's not that kind of sequel to something basically 9 years later. But if you loved that earlier film, or if you like this one, go backwards or forwards to see I, the Executioner.
I the Executioner? Okay.
The Executioner.
I see.
Oh my.
Okay. I'm
No,
trying to look it up
not
because
I
I
see.
don't.
I, the Executioner.
Got it. Okay. All right. All right. Well, I will check it out, and
And
I'll
Me
probably check
too.
out the first one too. That sounds awesome. I did not know about it.
there, we're all learning a lot today.
We
We
are.
are.
Lindsay, we're about to learn your number 8.
Okay, my number 8 is A Different Man. It is directed by Aaron Schimberg. Sebastian Stan. plays a man with, I cannot remember the disease. Fibromatosis. No, that's not it. He's got these tumors and growths on his face. It's a disfiguring disease. And he is kind of living this very depressed life because he thinks it's the way he looks. Once you realize the whole thing of the movie is if you're an asshole, you're still an asshole, which I think is kind of a great premise for a movie. But he finds this life-altering treatment which actually takes out all the growths, and now he looks like Sebastian Stan. And he's trying to be an actor. He finally gets this role in this play. I can't remember. She was in The Worst Person in the World, and she's becoming one of my favorite actors now because she's playing this playwright who kind of takes his story and then ultimately hires someone, Adam Pearson, I think is his name, who actually does have this disease and puts him in the role. So you have this existential crisis of him being jealous of Adam and kind of wanting the life that he has, even though he looks like Sebastian Stan. It's very convoluted, but it is really, really dark, and it's really funny. Where it goes is actually really hilarious, and it's a movie I've actually watched twice now, and it gets funny to me every time I see it because it is one of those amazing kind of movies where yeah, I think it says so much about a lot of things. I mean, there's a whole scene when ambulance is trying to get into this building because everyone in this building is constantly killing themselves. And then you have this ice cream truck trying to get around the ambulance, and it just says so much about the movie. I don't know if this movie's great.
Ryan?
Yes, I did not get to see this one. I have it in my queue. I wanted to try to see it. I did not get a chance. So I'm gonna see it. Yeah. I had a feeling it would be something I would probably end up on my list. I just didn't get a chance to see it. You know, I tried so hard to see everything, but unfortunately didn't get to see this one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it sounds awesome, and it looked really good, and I'm sure I'm gonna love it.
I had it on my list, and I watched a different movie, and so I will be watching A Different Man soon.
It's smarter and darker than you think it's going to be, mainly because it has a Marvel guy in there, but it is actually really good. And he gives a really good performance. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a good year for Sebastian Stan.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. All right, now for a number 8 from someone else who's had the Sebastian Stan surgery. It's Ryan's number 8.
And unfortunately, this is the best they could do. Well, this is going to be a horror pick, not because I thought let's have a horror pick, but just because I had two different ones I was debating. They're both horror. At first, as soon as I watched it, I had Azrael on my list because that is just 100% my jam. Just apocalyptic and just brutal and constant and 80 minutes long. So I was like, this is perfect. But the more I thought about it and I watched it again just to be sure, I'm gonna pick In a Violent Nature.
Whoa! Oh my gosh! I
'cause
didn't
here's the
see
thing.
this coming.
Yes, Azrael
Okay.
was on my prediction list.
Yep. Yeah, In a Violent Nature. And the reason being is like, I get why people don't like this movie. I totally get it. Again, just like I said about Saturday Night. But when I was in junior high, I made a slasher parody movie, a lot of which was based on the lore of Friday the 13th. And I never showed that one to everybody, but then I made a sequel in high school. In my senior year, I lured a bunch of my friends and I made a 45-minute movie, which was a parody of Friday the 13th movie. And I mean, this is before, I just aged myself. It was before Scream. So I thought I was really onto something. And that's kind of what this movie does. It makes up a character that's basically Jason. It kind of gives him a bit of an origin story, but there's something to that diegetic sound of the movie, of him just kind of walking through the woods. I think this is actually more of a parody than I think other people might realize. A lot of the director and a lot of the crew that came from this actually came from Psycho Goreman. That came out
that
of
makes sense.
production. In fact, Steven Kostanski, who directed Psycho Goreman, does the effects for this, does the gore effects for this,
Which is why they look good.
which is why they look good. They look really good.
Yeah.
The gore in this is really good and really well done. But there's just something to it that is so absorbing to me, that just him walking through the woods. And I get it. If you absolutely hate watching this guy walk through the woods and you find it boring as hell, I totally get it.
Yeah.
But there's something about it that completely worked for me. Friday the 13th isn't maybe my absolute favorite horror franchise, but it's been a part of my life forever. Like I said, made a parody version of it when I was a kid. And so there's just, for me, like this just had such resonance for me. And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, it has to be
Yeah.
this one. It's maybe not the most unique slasher of all time, but it's such a different take on it that it was enough that I was like, I mean, yeah, to me, I can't wait for the sequel, and I totally enjoyed it.
Lindsay?
I really liked it. I mean, I like the fact that it's a parody and it's playing with kind of the slow cinema. I mean, if it was actually slow cinema, it'd be 8 hours with no cuts of him just walking through the forest, killing
Yes.
people in one cut.
Yes.
But the kills are really great. I mean, there's this one kill where some of them are so exaggerated that I was thinking, oh, this has to be a parody, especially when he just keeps whacking the guy and just doesn't stop for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, it's not 5 minutes, but it feels like 5 minutes. He's just whack, whack. I'm like, does this man have a head like left? Or the one with the tree cutting thing. And I'm like, no, that guy's dead. You're just overkilling him now. But there is something very methodical about just watching this guy walk through the forest, and the fact that it is so Jason. It's easy to put your head in the mind space of, oh, of course this is what Jason does. He just wanders around until he sees someone and goes, well, I'm up. Oh, let's do this.
Yeah, I mean the fact that they tell the sort of backstory of the killer over the campfire, like all that stuff was just like, yeah, this is a parody. I think the fact that there's no music really dictates that it doesn't tip anybody's, to anybody that what the tone might be, what they're really going for. And so that to me, I think just kind of sets such a tone for the movie that seems much more serious. And I think it is serious to a degree, but I think that there's more parody elements in it than it gets credit for.
I mean, that yoga kill is that.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you see that and you're like they don't know what they're doing and they don't know that that's rad and kind of funny. And
yeah,
I mean, of course they do, right?
Yeah, I saw this and I loved it. I think I agree with everything that you've said. I mean, I don't know. Anyone that's like, I hate this, I get it, I guess, but like, you can't say that this is inept in any way. Like, it's
No.
all their decisions are so fantastically finite in like the pacing and the pronunciation of the violence and the pronunciation, the
no, it is. It's the pronunciation of it. This movie has a very specific grammar to it. So,
yeah.
yeah.
And like like say what you want about it, but like I feel like I have the complete memory recall of everything that happened in this movie. From like the toy car to the walking into the water to like, I mean, my brain is just full, and so many movies I watched where someone goes, what happened in it? And I'm like, I have no idea. But my brain tracked the whole thing. The last part in the car drove me up the wall. I was like,
yes.
Oh my God.
100%.
I was like, I hate this. But then I talked to somebody.
Negative space.
Yeah, but then I talked to somebody, and they were like, it really worked for me, and they explained why. And I was like, this is what I love about movies. Is like there can be things where you're like, you really bounce off of it, but then just listening to someone talk about like why it worked for them, you're like, God, I love these things. I love these things. That's why I collect them. That's why I'm surrounded by them. Like they can mean so much to so many people. That's why I love these top 10 lists. And I love that In a Violent Nature is on here as your number 8.
Yep. Threw you guys for a loop, but I just couldn't get this one out of my head. Like you said, that shot across the lake when he goes into the lake and just sits there. It's so good. Like I don't know. Like I'm in. Like I'm so in on that.
Yep.
And I'm with you. That ending moment, even rewatching it, that ending moment where she talks to him in the truck or talks to her in the truck, I'm like, why? And why is it so long? It doesn't need to be this long. It doesn't. I'm still having trouble with that element of it, but the rest of the movie.
But she's from the second Friday, right?
Friday the 13th too. Yeah, she's the one with the guy in the wheelchair.
Yeah. I mean,
is that her?
Yeah. So I get it. Even at a casting level, I'm like very. The intent is there. Like I get
totally,
but
totally. I just don't think she needs to go on this long monologue at that point in time. I just don't understand that part of it. I know she's trying to calm her down, maybe, but
keep her awake as well. But it's just because it's not his Johnny's.
Yes.
I think it's his name. It's not Johnny's point of view anymore because the whole movie you've been in Johnny's POV, and now all of a sudden you're in the final girl's POV listening to this story, and you're like, I kind of want to go back to Johnny.
Yeah.
I mean, this
I don't know
is
why we're
a
here.
little bit. So I think that's kind of what it is. So you're waiting for him to come back. And that's all you're waiting for. So I think that's kind of why that's why it feels so long. And I think it's done on purpose
Mhm.
because they want you to
Yes.
go,
For
Yes.
sure.
can we go back to Johnny? What's going on with Johnny? And because it is a parody and because the filmmakers know exactly how to fuck with you a little bit. Sorry, I don't know if I can swear on Dirk Show, but sorry,
Yeah.
I just did. But yeah, that's yeah, I think that's what they're doing. And it because it was driving me nuts the first time I saw it. I was like, man, if it wasn't for that ending, and the more I think about it, I'm like, oh no, it's because I want to be back with Johnny. And that's the whole thing with Friday the 13th. You want to be with Jason, even if he is chopping kids up with machetes.
No, that's a good point. And the fact that you're thinking, when is he going to pop out? When
Yep.
is he going to pop
Yeah.
out? And that's probably the expectation
Yeah,
that they might
exactly.
have had. It still didn't hit me in that way. And,
Mm.
it's probably why I didn't have it on my list for a little bit, because I was in on everything else until that time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm still like, I can't get that movie out of my head. So
Yeah.
that's why, as much as I loved Azrael, I just had to knock it off for this.
All right. Well, there it is at your number 8.
Yep.
My number 8 is Meanwhile on Earth. Did you see it?
Writing that
I
down.
did.
Nope.
Okay,
I sure
great.
did.
Okay, so directed by Jeremy Clapin. He directed an animated film, I Lost My Body, which is really great. This is a sci-fi drama with a horror lean, I would say, which also features animation, and it's French. The premise is that Elsa and Franck were close siblings, but his space mission goes awry and he disappears. So one day he's contacted by something that says they have him and she can bring him home, but there's a price. Megan Northrum is Elsa and gives what I think is an absolutely incredible performance. Yeah, I loved this movie. I didn't expect anything from it. I came across it randomly, and once it started going, and the way it was introducing things like the animation and the art, that'll always win me over in a movie. If someone's drawing, I love drawing, and this relationship and how it plays out with this voice she's hearing that's saying they have her brother, but she has to do these things, and then the way they introduce the people that might be interchangeable for this situation. I just thought it was really clever. Felt very new to me, and I just couldn't get it out of my head. And it's not often that you see so many movies in a year that you come across something where you're like, this is super smart, very well put together, very efficient storytelling. How it's handles probably a very modest budget is really incredible in how they shot it, and it just couldn't leave my bones. So, Meanwhile on Earth, Ryan, what do you think?
It has a moment in it that will really make you sit up in your seat. I'm not going to say what it is, but it has a moment you're like, oh, did not see he was going to go here. You spoke with us on our podcast this past year about a movie that blends live action and animation.
Yes.
In the aftermath, and this movie does it, I think, even more seamlessly.
Yeah.
Because I think there's some
It's the same people, so that
they're doing
helps.
they're doing this on purpose, though. Of course, they're not taking a Japanese movie and
Yes.
just splicing what they want out of it and then building live action around it.
Correct.
But and this one had the space element of it, and trying to do that in animation, it made a lot of sense, and it isn't sometimes jarring in that way. And I thought that was really cool. I liked a lot of it. I also love the runtime. I keep
Yes.
saying it, but it's 80 minutes, 86
Yeah.
minutes long. I
It's
was
not
like, hell
long.
yes. I just saw it this week, so it's very fresh. So I think it didn't make my list just because I
Sure.
was like, I need to keep thinking about it. It was a little too soon, but I really, really liked it. It is a high recommend for me as well. I really dug it.
Yeah, and it's one of those, like, I don't know. I'd never seen this actress before, and she just
And she's so good, dude.
she kind. I mean,
Oh,
she's really got to sell some pretty weird stuff, and she roots it in reality really, really well, to a point that I wasn't even questioning the strangeness and things that were happening. I was just like, yeah, she really misses her sibling, and like this is where the grief or whatnot's taking her. And
it's a crazy story to have grounded it as much as they did.
yes, yeah,
They made a lot of it seem very real for kind of an outrageous kind of plot. When you say it or
Yes.
break down the
Oh.
fullness of the plot, it feels like, oh, what a while. But it's shot very realistically, probably because of budget, but
Mhm.
they really ground it. So
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like, what?
Yeah.
Except for that one moment that happens where you were like, oh, didn't think this movie had that. And I
Yeah.
don't think I'll ever forget that
Yeah.
moment.
Nope. It's got one of
So,
those for
yeah.
everybody. So tuck into that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Meanwhile on Earth at my number 8, which brings us to Lindsay's number 7.
Okay, Dirk, I gotta apologize because I know you do not like this movie. And I think the
No,
reason
what?
you don't like it is the reason why I kind of loved it, and that is, of course, Nosferatu. Okay, look, I realize that Nosferatu is just a dude with a mustache. Of course, me, I love the mustache. But the fact that this is a movie that is more about Alan, the fact that this is a movie that is all about this kind of ever-present evil that is not necessarily Nosferatu, but is this plague sweeping over this town. It's kind of like Longlegs in that way, where it's about the devil. It is about pure evil, which I think is actually another thing with my list. It's just about this kind of thing that's undefinable, that's kind of sweeps over. And I really loved Lily Rose Depp's performance. Something I don't think I would have, though it surprised me. I don't think I knew that she had this in her. Um, and I loved the look of it. I kind of like the fact that in a vampire movie, the vampire didn't actually matter, if that makes sense. It was everything else. Aaron Taylor Johnson and Emma Corrin's storyline, I just absolutely loved. It was just death everywhere. And the fact that it was 18th century Germany kind of helped as well. So yeah, that is my number 7.
Ryan, you saw it in the theater.
Yes, I did. I did see it in the theater. I sure did. Saw Nosferatu in the theater. And I will say, I loved the production design. It is shot immaculately. But
Beautifully.
sometimes the thing about Eggers for me is that I don't emotionally get wrapped up in his story. And I didn't get wrapped up in this one. But would I watch it again? In a heartbeat. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautifully well done. I liked a lot of the performances. I'm a big fan of Bill Skarsgård. I'm not scared of Bill Skarsgård in this movie.
No.
And I think that's important to the story, but I was not. But he is like what he's doing, shit, on a pure craft and performance level, Jesus, so good. There was no foreboding to me. I talked with a buddy I saw it with, and he talked a lot about Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula as a sort of thing that he compared it to. That never really came up to me.
No, I was expecting that, and it was nothing like. For me,
Yeah,
the touches here and there, but it was nothing like what I thought it was going to be.
yeah. I was thinking more about the movie it was a remake of more than I was thinking about Bram Stoker's Dracula. I thought on a craft level, just amazing. I read a really brilliant like article about it afterwards from an Irish director who wrote about it and loved the movie. And I'm doing it a disservice to even bring it up because I won't be able to say what he saw. But he wrote about Lily Rose Depp's journey and what she needed and how she needed that ending to happen for her. And I was like, that's amazing. To Dirk's point, that's incredible that you saw that. I didn't see that at all in the movie. That completely did not hit me in that way, but that it hit him in that way, and hit you in that way. That is, to me, that's what's so awesome about movies. But for me, it just didn't hit me on that level. But on a craft level, I think it's almost hard to beat. It's just incredibly well done. I loved the sets that they built and stuff. I know they built most of it, I believe,
Yeah, they did.
out in was it Romania? I'm not sure where they shot
I
it,
think
but
it was Romania or Prague, I think actually. Some of it was Prague and then some of it was
okay.
Romania or Hungary or something. Kind of that area.
Yeah, and so to look at it all, I thought, oh man, of course they shot this in, Europe, and you can do that because it's got such great, old streets and all this stuff. And then find out they just built it all. I was like, wow, holy shit. That's incredible. Like they did such an incredible job with it. But it's not on my list. But I knew it would be on yours.
Yes,
So I'm
and
very happy about it.
I'm shocked
I
at
like
it
the I
number
like
7. That's the craziest thing to me. I had it on your list way higher, but 7, sure, okay. I've really only heard from people who absolutely love this movie, and that's awesome. I can't believe so many people go to the theater and will see something like this. I mean, it's prestigious because the director. I'm not a huge Bobby Eggs fan, but like, when Bobby Eggs makes a new movie, people go and see it because like nobody shoots skinny white people colder than Bobby Eggs. That's what I always
Nope.
say. He's great at it every single time. The interesting thing about this movie too is like what we take into movies from our own perspectives can really matter a lot to how we see the film and experience it. And I saw so many things from people that have been in terrible and abusive relationships that connected to this movie on a level that, like, I certainly didn't have that. But I went into the movie being aware of that, so it was like, it was really nice to see something and be like, well, this isn't my favorite thing, but this has meant a lot to so many people in varying ways, from entertainment, love the popcorn bucket, to like, this reminded me of this part of my life that maybe I'm not done assessing, you know, and for that to happen from something that could just be another vampire movie or whatever. Those are fangs, not quotes. Is I was doing air fangs. It's really awesome. So I'm glad it's on your list here. It's at number 7, which is crazy, but like,
yeah, I also had it listed higher.
We'll see what's up
I
higher.
thought it was going to
then.
be a much higher prediction.
This is
I
crazy.
haven't had the chance to rewatch it, and actually the one good thing about the LA fires, which is all terrible, is that I actually got to see this movie, because otherwise I would have not been able to see it.
Oh, because it
but I
pushed
saw
our
it.
recording
Yeah.
back, people. That's why.
Yeah. So which I think is a little bit
okay.
lower, but
I
yeah,
see.
so I saw it a bit later, so I'm still wrestling with it a little bit. But I think, yeah, as I watch it more, I'm going to love it more, because I can be a little bit cold with Eggers as well. And this is the first, and it was all Deb, that I think she sort of brought out the emotion of it more. And there are so many moments with her. When she's not in the movie, I missed her. My usual favorite scene in a Dracula movie is when, I guess in this case, well, I can't remember the character's name in Nosferatu, but Jonathan Harker, when he goes to the castle and meets Dracula or Nosferatu for the first time, that's usually my favorite scene in any of those movies. And this one, I'm just like, I'd rather get back to Depp, because I think she's the heart and soul, and she is. So yeah.
Also, Jim Carrey having the same mustache is distracting.
It is.
When those movies come out the same year and we see him and dancing with the older Jim Carrey over and over and over online, and then they're like, and here's the reveal of Orlok. And I was like,
I almost started giggling my ass off, and it was, I think everyone was very annoyed with me.
Yeah.
When I saw him, I was like, Jesus Christ.
Ryan, you look
Dirk,
close.
are you saying that you didn't go see Sonic 3 in the theater?
We'll have to wait and see. There's still some picks to happen here.
Because I know I did.
Wait till we get to the top 5, Ryan. But before we can do that, we got to hear your number 7. So, Ryan, what's your number 7?
Speaking of Psycho Gorman, my number 7 is Frankie Frico.
Higher.
Yes, I knew. This is the one I told you we would both have. Okay, we will table the discussion for later.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Dirk, you're number 7.
All right. Yes, I knew have we ever had the same movie on
No,
list? Okay.
no. This is the first time, for sure.
Steve, there you go. Okay, my number 7 is She is Conan by Bertrand Mandico.
Number 7.
Number 7.
Okay.
I
well,
know.
That's a surprise. That's a surprise.
It's, like I said, 2 through 10 have all been from 2 through 10. It's been reworked.
Okay.
This year was so hard for me to set these up and show them the right respect that I'm like, you're all basically equal. But for the frame of this conversation, we're ranking 1 through 10. And I even cut the movies into strips of paper and moved them physically around, being like, okay, no, you go here, this goes here. So it hurts to be at number 7, but here it is. The synopsis is Hellhound Rainier, I know, roams the abyss following Conan in each phase of her life, from childhood as a slave to Sanja through her ascension as a queen. It's a film that's epic, it's queer, it's transgressive, it's a cinema salad of everything from Burroughs to Buñuel, Caligula to Klaus Nomi. Echoes of Derek Jarman are in there from Jubilee. There's kind of a neon Peter Greenaway feel. It's ambitious. It's a huge odyssey. And I love it. It's in French, German, and English. So, of course, it's on my list because it's in more languages than just English. So that is She is Conan. Not, like Ryan said, not for everybody. But these movies aren't for everybody. There are personal top 10s. And I can't imagine a world where Bertrand puts out a new movie and it's not on my list. So there we are, number 7.
There's not many movies that I watch and go, oh my God, that is a Dirk movie. But I was watching it and going, oh my God, Dirk is going to love this, not knowing that he was already a fan of his already. But it just said Dirk to me.
Yeah, I was shocked that Preston liked it and was did a whole thing on the Letterboxd there.
He really dug it.
And
He
that,
really did, yeah.
I love that. When somebody's like, I love movies from 1932, and then this type of film also can connect
Yeah.
with them. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, that brings us closer to those top fives. Will it be Sonic 3? Only time will tell. But Lindsay, what's your number 6?
After
Well,
she's Conan, I'm sure that you're gonna have Sonic 3 now. I'm more sure than ever.
I know. Well, I like Christmas movies. No, I'm going back to I'm going back to the vampire because this has actually been a really great vampire year. But I am going Abigail.
Oh,
Oh,
wow. Okay.
what?
Wow. Did not see that coming.
Yeah, and
Over
Okay.
Nosferatu, people. Over Nosferatu, Abigail.
Wow.
Okay.
Nosferatu does not
Let's
have
do
Dan
this.
Stevens saying, "Sammy, those are fucking onions," which might be the greatest line reading of all time. No, I think I'm just in the bag for Radio Silence. This is fun. It's funny. I love the actors. I think everyone gets kind of a moment. No one gets, even though it's kind of an ensemble. Of course, Melissa Barreras is the lead, and with Dan Stevens, I think it's just really fun. I've seen it twice. I giggle every single time. I love how bloody it is. Yes, my Blu-ray's downstairs. I think it's just a hoot of a movie. Even though I kind of, well, the ad told you she's a vampire. So the kid's a vampire. But just the way I love Kevin Durant in this. I love Catherine. I'm a huge fan of Catherine Newman and Melissa Barreras and Dan Stevens. So it's just got all my favorite current character actors working at the moment. So I'm just like, yeah, stick them in the house. Let them get eaten. Let's see how this goes.
Ryan?
Yeah, that's a great perspective. And I do like those guys a whole lot. I really like what they're doing. I mean, anybody that's going to make movies and direct movies and just going to be like, no, I love horror and in the way that they clearly do.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're just going to make horror movies. That's what we're going to do. We love horror and this is what we're going to do. And I always want to champion people like that because people that really love it and it's clear whenever you watch their movies that they love this genre. I always want to champion that. I think that they were undone, for me anyway, by the trailer. So watching it for me, and I got the Blu-ray because I really wanted, I haven't been able to listen to it yet, but I really wanted to hear their commentary because the movie plays like it's a secret and it's going to be a big reveal, but you know it already because you saw the trailer.
Sure.
And you know it's a little girl vampire movie. So it spends like an hour building that up. And I was like, but that's not a knock against the movie. To me, that's a knock against the advertising. That's against the marketing. That's a knock on the marketing. I think they did the film a big disservice by revealing that so quickly. I think they could have built it like it was going to be a big vampire movie and they're stuck in a house with a vampire. And that would have been it would have been awesome to have that reveal the way they clearly intended it to be.
Yeah, if they just Meganed it, and just like leaned into it, then then everyone was gonna dress up like her for Halloween and stuff. It's like it just needed to be marketed differently. Maybe my thing was I saw the film, I enjoyed it. I can't even say if I liked it because I really disliked one of the characters so much, and this can happen to any of us. You're watching a movie and just somebody is just you don't want to be in the room with them. And sadly, the actor has passed away, so I don't want to speak ill of them.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yes, yeah.
I thought he was great, but I hear you.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
My wife and I, we were like almost going to turn it off. We were like...
He's very real. I felt he was very real, but he plays a very really real, annoying, horrible person that you would hate to be around.
Exactly.
But he plays it very, very well.
Yes.
He does. It didn't. It felt like he wasn't acting, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we just really were like, oof. So then as the rest of the film went on, we were just trying to cope with that. But the fact that it's on your list out of all the films you've seen.
I love that it's on your list.
That's so
truly
cool.
do. I did not see that coming, and that is awesome. I love it. You love that movie. That's why I got the disc. I've got to see it again. I want to see the commentary.
Yep.
I want to like, my viewing was just like, I know it's a girl vampire movie. Get to it.
Yeah.
And that isn't meeting the movie where it truly is. So I need to go back and watch it with that.
For me, for me, it was the cast. I mean, it's the most fun I've had in a movie theater this year, and it's the cast. You tell me that Dan Stevens, Melissa Barreras, Catherine Newton, Kevin Durant are in a movie, I'm kind of going to show up. And to have them just be as playful and to have Kevin actually have his French-Canadian accent. I thought he was doing an accent, and then I looked at he's actually French Canadian. I was like, holy, that's what he sounds like.
Yep.
Oh my god. Yeah, I think I was just having a blast with the cast and didn't really mind the vampire stuff was kind of second, and then just as bloody. Yeah, it's kind of weird. They want to do the Mithrigan thing, but Mithrigan's specifically a PG-13 movie for 13-year-old girls,
Sure.
whereas Annabelle is clearly an R-rated because there is so much blood. I mean, everyone is literally covered from head to toe,
Yeah.
in blood.
How can you not love that? How can you?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's awesome. I mean,
There's a
that
near
part
dark
of it,
reference
I
in
love.
this. As soon
Yes.
as he pushes the sunglasses, I'm like,
Yes.
yes.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, those guys love horror films, and
Yeah.
I am so I love that, and so I love that you're on this list. I gotta give it another watch. I clearly own it, so I'm like I'm gonna but it didn't make my list. There's
Yeah.
another vampire movie that came out this year that almost made my list, and I wonder if it's gonna make Dirk's. But
We'll
anyway, we'll
see.
see. And I feel like, will we talk about another Dan Stevens movie? I feel like we might, but we'll see.
I think we might as well. Yeah.
Well,
Dan
yeah.
Stevens had a
We'll
really
see.
great year this year. Yeah.
We'll
We'll
see.
see.
Maybe it's next as we hear Ryan's number 6. Please tell us why it's Reagan. Oh. No?
Oh, you guys know me too well. Well, this was forever going to be Rebel Ridge.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then I
Oh.
saw another movie
Oh.
which still had some vibes of Rebel Ridge, for sure. And it happens to be also produced as well
Oh,
by the director of Rebel Ridge.
Is
and
it-
I'm talking about The Order,
Oh, The Order.
which is executive produced by Jeremy Saulnier.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And this just hit me in the we're gonna bring down the serial killers slash, in this case, this evil group of KKK racists with Nicholas Hoult as the leader of this KKK. What a year that guy had! Holy
Yeah,
crap!
he's had a hell of a year.
This is the second movie we've talked about with him in it. And at first, I wasn't sure about him. I wasn't sold on him. And then eventually he won me over because what he was instead of casting a guy who's clearly evil, they cast a guy that you look at and you think is a sweetheart. And you're like, oh, this guy's a nice guy. And you buy why people follow him because he just seems so gentle and kind. But what he is about is so evil. And the end of that movie is just like, holy crap. And on the flip side, not the biggest Jude Law fan. I don't find him offensive in any way, but I've never been super into him. And I think he is awesome in this movie. I completely got into that. And I love that element of, he's not a very good guy and he doesn't have a very good life. But what he does is this job. I don't know. It's that kind of stuff that the police procedural aspect of it just really hit me. And I just was watching this late at night, like at my in-laws, and was thinking I'd watch part of it and watch the rest the next day. And I was up until the early morning, basically watching this movie. I was just so absorbed by it. And I just really, really dug it. I think it's really awesome. And I love Rebel Ridge too, but I'm going with The Order.
Lindsay, have you seen The Order?
No, it was on my list to watch. I didn't get round to it, and I do want to see it because I am becoming a big Nick Hoult fan. I do actually quite like Jude Law. It depends on the movie. You can tell when he's an actor, and you can tell he's caring about the project or not. And I've heard that he's very good, so I do need to see this. Yeah.
I don't know if it was the American accent, because he does an American accent, and he actually does it pretty well. It's usually his Achilles heel. He's not been very good at it. And I don't know if that was like he really worked at this, but it just feels like he just came in wanting to like, okay, we're going to put in some major work.
Yeah.
And I'm bummed that this one kind of doesn't get the attention that I think it deserves.
Yeah.
But
Sorry, I wouldn't have pressed play on it, but I saw what you said on Letterboxd, and it was like, all right, I'm gonna watch it because I like those small crime movies.
Totally.
Yeah,
neo-noir kind of.
Yeah, the procedural part. I'm like, let's do this. I know what we're getting. And I thought, Jude Law was fine. I like Jude Law because he was in Existence. But I thought it was good. I thought it was weird casting just because the two of them, I mean, maybe that's how the movie got made, but it just seemed like just find two Americans to, I don't know. I mean,
for sure.
Like what's Woody Harrelson doing? He would have been great as this role, but I am also not a casting agent, so I think that everyone was good, but I just at a certain point I was like, seems like they had to put a lot of effort into this. Whatever, but yeah, The Order is great. At number 6, that's crazy. That's very high ranking.
There's a scene too, I want to just say
Yeah.
that when Jude Law is working with Ty Sheridan, who's also very good in this,
Yep.
and probably the first thing I've really seen him in that I was like, really impressed with him.
Huh.
Not that I've never like I've been fairly benign on him, but I was like, okay, I really liked him in this. And there's a scene where he gets frustrated with Ty Sheridan that I think is some of the best acting I've ever seen Jude Law do.
That's a great point.
And I was like, wow, I've never seen him do that. And I feel like I've seen a lot of Jude Law throughout the years, you know. He's not an unknown quantity. But so I don't know. There's a lot of that movie that just really hit me, and I just was so absorbed into. So
all right. Well, my number 6, not that different from yours. My number 6 is The Last Stop in Yuma County, directed by Francis Galuppi, who wrote it and edited it.
Okay.
Cinematographer is Mac Fiskin. It's basically an ensemble, single location mostly. It's like a film noir. It's pulling from Peckinpah, Anthony Mann with the intensity of like impending doom. There's many great performances, like a Coen Brothers film. We got Jim Cummings, Richard Brake, Alex Esso, Barbara Crampton, Faison Love. You have a complex morality at play, violence punctuating the narrative, pushing the characters to make decisions they didn't think they'd ever have to choose. I just loved it from moment to moment. I put on one scene that's just the jukebox playing Roy Orbison.
Oh my God.
Yes. And you just watch that and you're like, this guy was a drummer in a punk band, was doing videos, wanted to make movies, went through this crazy, I won't tell the story because it's not mine even to tell, to get to a point to make this film after years. And I just think he knocks it out of the box. Like, it's just like, not to use a sports reference, and why were we in that box? But it's just
they knock it out of the park, not the box.
Oh, thanks. They knock it out of the park.
And that is a sports reference.
Yeah,
knock it out of the box is just a reference to knocking something out of a box.
Which I know more about, because I just put stuff in there and I'm like, get this out of here. I just saw that second the movie finished, I was like, well, that's going to be on my list, I know, at the end of the year. And rewatching it, I was like, Richard Brake is fantastic. It's just like Jim Cummings as a knife salesman person. It's just so smart. Like, have a gas station where they're waiting to get gas, so everyone's just showing up at this space. I had mentioned to the director that like this felt like the early 90s indies stuff to me, because those directors were doing the same stuff that people like Tarantino was doing, where you're pulling from these awesome directors. And now everyone just says it's a Tarantino, but like he was actually pulling from them. And like the Peckinpah thing I mentioned to Francis on Instagram, I was like, hey, there's this scene where Faison is watching something on the TV. It's right before the shootout. I was like, is that Peckinpah? Is it like, maybe, is it the Wild Bunch? I can't tell because the TV's all fuzzy and everything. And he said it's a pilot that Peckinpah directed, and he thought it was a great way to foreshadow the coming like shootout that's going to happen. And it's that kind of like thought process and attention to detail and that sort of like flash of like, here's my influence. Like, this movie, it was at number 2 for me. It was at number 3. It was never lower than this, but like I knew that Last Stop in Yuma County was going to be on my list. And so there it is at number 6. Feels like it should be higher, but I don't know.
Yeah, never seen a first-time director block this well, except for maybe Spielberg.
Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, talk about a movie that you go for the cast. I mean, it's just got, I didn't think you could put Alex Esser and Jocelyn Donahue in the same movie. I didn't think that was allowed. Yeah, my only criticism is I don't understand why Jim Cummings is a redhead. I keep looking at, why do you have redheads? Yeah.
That's so funny. I've thought about this movie a lot and never even thought about that. I love in this movie also how it's just, it's just going to get worse. And so every turn, everything, and my brain even tried to predict, like, well, clearly it's not going to go this way. And then something would happen.
It does go that way.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I love that this is where we're going. I just had a blast with this movie. So number 6 is that, which brings us to the top 5s.
Is where it gets serious.
What are you laughing about?
I'm laughing because you didn't ask me my opinion because I know you're upset with my... with my Letterboxd review.
No, yeah, sorry. Ryan, what do you... Let's hear from you.
That's okay.
You got something?
I actually really like this movie, and I got some heat on a couple Discords I'm on for mentioning my review, which I said this is Quentin Tarantino's A Simple Plan. And, I stand by it, and I meant it as a compliment. But everybody was like, how dare you? And I also only gave it 3 stars. It didn't hit me as well, but I liked it. I'm gonna buy the Blu-ray, so I enjoyed the movie. I probably wouldn't have seemed so dismissive if I had said like John Dahl's A Simple Plan, because it had that sort of there was a lot of, or let's say Carl Coper,
There you go.
Yeah.
who did Delusion, and so many people did that kind of sort of neo noir in the early '90s that were coming out, and this felt to me very much in that style.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And so, but there was some elements of it, like the shootout, that felt like very much in the way Tarantino had robbed it from other directors, as you mentioned. So that's why I kind of went with that. It kind of has that style. But I almost thought I would be selling people on the movie rather than telling them that I didn't like it. And I got Dirk was one of a few people that were like, "How dare you?" And I was like, "I didn't realize this was contentious."
I think if this movie came out in 96, I think that's what exactly would have been the review.
Yeah.
Actually, when did A Simple Plan come out? But I think there's enough distance now, and we know Quentin Tarantino probably did rip off a few things from Dahl and from Peckinpah and from everyone else. So you can kind of go, actually, this is just as thing. But yeah, I giggled when I saw that.
I think it's 94. I'm not
94.
100% Simple
Yeah.
Plan, but I can't really see it here on the disc, but it's my Sam Raimi shelf.
Nice.
Everyone needs a Sam Raimi shelf, yes.
Everybody does. Yes. I liked it. I should have known though, and I did not put this on my list of your predictions, and I should have, because the way
Me
you
too.
were so angry at me. I was like, why didn't I thought it's stupid that I didn't put that on there. Oh well.
And you can hear all this if you join the New World Pictures Podcast Discord.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone
That's right.
beats up Brian.
It's his Discord. Why do we do it? I don't know.
Yeah.
Why do you invite
Yeah,
us? I don't know.
sure. Come on in there and beat up on me or my brother or Erica.
Well,
Who would never go in.
yeah, I only joke like that on there because it's
Of course.
it doesn't
Oh,
come from a place
I can
of
take
contention.
it. I can take. Come on in and beat me up. I can handle it.
It's not. But the thing with Tarantino that I sometimes bounce off of is, as a director, I can rarely separate the voice of the director in his writing from the films. And
Mhm.
it's the same
Mhm.
thing I have with, who's that other director everyone loves? Clerks.
Kevin Smith, yeah.
Kevin Smith,
Yeah.
same thing. Like I can hear their voice so loudly in the dialogue of the characters that they write that I
Yeah.
struggle with. And so that's the thing I bounce off of and hearing, and it's also like when people get on me because I've said action movies and used John Wick as a shortcut to explain the action in the film, and they're like, well, actually the John Wick movies are pulling from these films from overseas, and it's like, oh, right, okay, well, I mean, sometimes we use shorthand of a director to just try to get to a vibe or a point of something, and it's not
Correct.
always,
Right.
I don't have the time to go into the length of that kind of stuff. So that's what the Discord
And
thing
somebody
is
telling
about.
you, Dirk, to be like, well, actually, John Wick, and I feel like,
From Hong Kong,
you are
and-
talking to the wrong person to be
Yes.
trying to.
Do not
I get it.
explain Asian action
I
movies
get
to
it.
Dirk, because he already
I
has
get
like
it.
10 movies that you've never heard of in his pocket that he can just pull out.
Yeah, including I, the Executioner.
Oh.
So
Exactly.
please do not give Dirk grief about his John Wick reference.
Well, yes, and even that one, I couldn't find that, and it was somebody online that told me where they found it because it was on their top 10 list, and I wanted to see it. So, the Executioner was on my list of things I had to track down, but I just want to let everyone know that transparency. I needed help too, and so anytime something's listed, if it's on this episode or someone else's episode, just reach out to the podcaster and be like, "Hey, I want to see this and I can't find it," or
Yeah.
whatever, because we're all here because we love movies and we want to see them. Well, sometimes we help each other out.
And let me take this opportunity to say, like, truly doing this every year, like, you guys both push me to watch stuff that I don't know if I would watch otherwise.
Yeah.
And
Oh, me too.
Same.
And I'm watching to make sure that even if it doesn't make my list, I want to be able to see what you guys like.
Right.
And it's pushed me, and I've watched I don't know Korean movies as well. I watch a lot of Hong Kong movies, but like I start trying, if I see a Korean movie, it goes on my list. You know what I mean?
Yes.
If it's something that I'm like, oh, I bet Lindsay likes this, I'm putting it on my list.
Mhm.
Like you guys both push me to go watch stuff that so truly, this is why I really appreciate doing this every year, is your recommendations and what you guys watch pushes me to watch stuff that I don't know if I would have otherwise.
Same. Same.
Yeah,
Like,
me too.
I'm sure Lindsay's number 5. Fingers crossed, Sonic 3.
Come on,
Actually,
Lindsay.
surprisingly, Sonic 2.
What?
Weird double feature that I had. No, it's an Australian movie. I checked. This is absolutely out in the States, so you can find this. This is Bird Eater. This was directed
Oh.
by Jim Ware and Jack Clark. This is a movie which I've noticed is a trope that's happening more and more, and kind of not horror essentially, but kind of adjacent horror, which I would put Bird Eater in. Kind of the wedding party before the wedding reunion where everyone kind of gets together and then everything turns into chaos. But what Bird Eater does is it starts with a poster of Wake and Fright, so you know what you're getting into.
Cool.
Thankfully, kangaroos do not die in this movie, but it is Bucks Night kind of thing where this whole group of friends gets together, including the bride to be. And once you realize what is happening in this movie, especially this relationship, you realize how dark this movie is. And it is very darkly funny. It is very anxiety inducing because you're just waiting for something to happen. And it's referencing an actual creature in Australia called a bird eater, which is a giant spider, which makes sense. And the one quote that gets repeated on the poster, which every Australian reviewer said, is this movie is feral. And it is kind of is very feral.
I haven't even heard of it.
It's great. Yeah.
Me neither. I just put it on my list.
Yes.
Did not know this. You're right. It is available to rent, not just seemingly everywhere, but it is available to rent on like Apple TV and Fandango and Microsoft. So
you can watch this.
I will check it
Umbrella
out.
distributor, so you can actually get the Blu-ray. So, and I know they do region free.
Wow. Yeah, I've not heard of this, so had no idea.
Fantastic.
Looks awesome.
Bird Eater.
You had me at giant spider.
Same.
Yes.
Ryan, let's see if you got a giant spider in your number 5. What do you got?
Okay, I'm really rolling the dice because I am bumping a movie off that I'm hoping one of you is going to say to put this one in here. But I just saw this week, and this one just really hit me. And this is an opposite of saying that I love Azrael because it's 80 minutes and quick and right to the point. This one doesn't always get exactly to the point and really does take its time. I'm talking about Evil Does Not Exist.
Higher.
Okay.
Whoa, we've got another one. Okay.
Well, we'll see. Will the other movies still make it on? Let's find out.
Let's see.
Let's find out.
Maybe it's my number 5, which is...
It is your number 5.
It's Hundreds of Beavers. It's not that? Okay. Well,
I got confused with the time. There's 2 movies that might have made the list, but I wasn't, just because they took so long to get a thing released. I was confused on which date they were, but this movie rules.
yeah, Hundreds of Beavers, directed by Mike Cheslick. I'm not going to say a lot of it because, look, you're either going to watch a movie called Hundreds of Beavers or you're not. And for me, I pressed play, didn't think it was going to work. It totally worked for me. I had a great time. I love video games. That's kind of the language they're playing with here. And, you know, it ended and I was like, I'm going to show that to my kid. And so I was like, what do you think of this? She was 10 at the time. And it worked. She was like, what is this? It's weird. But as she sat with it and was watching what was happening with the people and the people wearing beaver suits, and the guy is like basically a live Looney Tune cartoon. And as it would played out, she was having the best time, and she was laughing super hard at all the poops and stuff, and the cartoon violence just really worked, and we had such a good time watching this movie together. I'm super stoked to have it on Blu-ray. There wasn't another movie experience this year where it was that fun, and I just felt like you have 4,000 special effects shots in this movie, and it's just such a stylized thing that, like, people go, it could have been shorter, and I'm like, sure, everything could, but like, I also enjoyed all the jokes and the way that things kind of cyclically came together. So it was number 2 for a long time this year for me, because I enjoyed it so much. And what are personal top 10s if not sometimes full of ridiculous joy? So that's it for my number 5. It's Hundreds of Beavers. Anyone want to talk about beavers for a second, or just move on?
The pinecone joke in the foot is still a thing I think about and giggle to
So
myself.
funny.
I love that gag so much.
Yeah. Moving on.
Oh, and Dirk and I did an episode on it, if you want to go back and listen to Schlock and Awe, with
Oh.
Cannibal the Musical.
Yes.
And it was a fun
Nice.
time.
Also great
And
on
try-
Blu-ray now. They both came out.
Yes, yeah, they did. Just after, I'm like, God damn
Yes.
it! I watched a really hideous thing on Tubi, and
Yeah.
now they come up with a Blu-ray. God damn it! It's a really unique. I wish more movies were like this, like just so homemade and consistent, and the way they use their references is incredible.
Yeah. Okay. Lindsay, what is your number 4?
I am going to go for challenges. Luca Guadagnino, I am just in the bag for him. Usually tennis movies bore the living snot out of me, but I guess if you're having Mike Feist and Josh O'Connor just shove chorizos in their mouth so violently that you're actually feeling sorry for the chorizo and the hot dog, and then having a camera on a ball zooming across the tennis thing. I mean, this movie is so vibrant and so amazing, so sexual and yet so not. I don't know. This movie rules.
Ryan.
Yeah, I put it off watching it for a little bit just because I thought, oh, is this going to be this kind of sexy three-way tennis movie?
So many of those.
Look at it again. It is that to a degree, but it's not. And it is. I enjoy watching tennis. This is probably the most exciting tennis you'll ever see. I really liked it. A lot, and I really dug it. And I thought the performances were incredible in it. The 3 leads were just amazing, and I really, really liked it. It's not on my list. I did think it would be on your list, but I really, really liked it. And I was like, okay, I get why everyone's talking about this movie. It's awesome. So.
And a soundtrack by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. So there you go.
Which
did not get nominated, and that's a shame.
I was generally surprised about that. I thought it would have at least gotten a score nom. But I love how it just starts when someone's looking off in the distance and you just get this propulsive score, and I'm like, yes!
They have yet to do a bad score.
Yeah.
True. They're scoring movies. Okay, well, number 4, Ryan, what do you got?
Number 4, though I am nervous about what I pushed off on my number 5. But my number 4 is also fun. It's Dali! That's the movie. Directed by Quentin Dupieux. No one's heard it? Okay, great. This is a movie about...
that came out?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I've been waiting for it. I was shocked because oh, gosh, I'm such an idiot.
I'm surprised, because Dirk always has a Quentin
Dupieux. I thought you would know about this as well.
I was waiting for it, and I guess
shit, it is actually Dali! Oh my god, I thought you were just...
Nope, that's the title. That's the title with all its A's and an exclamation point.
It has a lot of A's.
This is about a French journalist trying to make a movie about Salvador Dali, and Dali, much like She Is Conan, it is played by a variety of actors who actually play Dali. And it just switches who is playing Dali often, which is such a Dali move. It's an incredible move. It's probably the best biopic you'll see about somebody's attempt to make a biopic about Dali that is perfect for Dali. It's
how very Quentin, I will say.
He put out 2 movies this year, and I saw them both. But this one, just as soon as I saw it, I was like, that's in. Because I just absolutely loved it. I loved the style of it. I won't get into it because you haven't seen it. There is nobody better to make this kind of movie. Obviously, he wrote it, but there's no one better to handle the subject than Quentin Dupieux. I'm so excited for his next movie, which I'm waiting so breathlessly for it to come out. I really dig him a whole lot. I loved it. I loved it so much. So I had to put it in here. Number 4.
He's a goddamn machine.
Yeah, he is.
He puts out like 2 movies a year. It's absolutely wild. And his other movie is still pretty good. I mean, I think anything he's doing is worth watching.
Same.
But like some of them are going to hit more than others, you know?
Yeah.
And the other one that he did, which is Yannick. I don't know if you guys have seen that one.
Yeah.
Which is really just a guy standing up in the middle of a play and having issues with the play. And that's all it is. And then it's like an hour, you know, and it goes different places, and the guy who plays Yannick is very good, but didn't hit me as much. But like, this guy is just a machine who is making incredibly inventive movies. And this one just scored much higher for me, and I just was immediately in love with it. So one of the most fun movies I watched, and it's fun in a way that's like, look, this isn't Sonic 3, which is undeniably the most fun movie you'll ever see.
Sure.
Also, doesn't have double Jim Carrey's, but it has like 5 different guys playing Dali, and that's just a blast. So
Okay. Got it on my list. I'm so excited. I didn't know it was out. So there you go. My number 4 is Shadows of Fire, directed by Shinya Tsukamoto. Like Mars Express, this is a 2023 film that was only released in the States this year. This one by Third Window Films, one of my favorites out there. This is the third in Tsukamoto's anti-war trilogy after Fires on the Plain and Killing. It's set after World War II. In the aftermath, there's a prostitute, a forever orphan, and an ex-soldier. It's a bleak film where all hope is eroded every time by these echoes of war. But once again, Tsukamoto is exploring how violence changes everything, how nothing's the same after violence, and how committing acts of violence irrevocably changes oneself. This is a world of damaged, broken people, some of whom are trapped in the deeds they've done, and some of whom have hope even in the most challenging times. For me, Tsukamoto is an important director, and the fact that he's still doing movies that are this amazing is unbelievable to me. He gets lumped in sometimes with like Mike as like an agitator with his camera work and aggressive energy, but I find his work very similar to somebody like, say, Cronenberg, who's known for more body horror in their work, but really it's their explorations on violence are far more interesting beyond like the destruction of the body itself, and more into the wandering of the labyrinth of the mind and how violence changes those paths. And this film, I bought it without seeing it. I watched it, and I watched it again the next night. And for a movie that's this sad at times and serious, it's also, he doesn't make it something that's impenetrable and something that you don't want to look at. It's not so angry, and it's more like, look, this is the history that we have here in Japan. I don't want the youth to forget that these people existed and these challenges existed for people after the war. And I loved it. It's also gorgeously shot. And so Shadows of Fire, I know a lot of people in the States wouldn't even know it existed. And it just kept crawling up the list. And I got it right here at number 4. Ryan, did you see this one?
I didn't, but I had it on my list of
Nice.
movies I thought you would pick. So,
Well
but I
done,
have
well
not.
done.
I have not. In fact, I noticed it so late and thought, oh, this is going to be a dark one,
Yeah.
but I didn't have a chance to see it. But I mean, it's on my list now. I absolutely will check it out when I'm ready to be super depressed.
Yeah, I mean, it's more poignant than depressing, I feel like, if that makes sense. But it's like anytime you hear that somebody's a prostitute and there's soldiers whose lives are just never going to get better, um, it is hard. But I just feel like somehow it's handled with this reverence for the people's lives that it's, I don't know. I mean, I wanted to go back into that world a second day. And to me, that tells me that something is being uniquely handled, and for this to be the part of his trilogy, and it reminds me of like how like Obayashi with House is thought of just as one way. Tsukamoto is often thought of as like Tetsuo the Iron Man, but he
Mm.
also makes these other films that have a point and something that really means a lot to him. And so yeah, I didn't expect to be blown away by it, but my wife even came in at the very end and was like, how was it? And I like needed a moment to like talk because I was almost too emotionally invested in the characters and everything. So um,
Mm.
Shadows
It sounds
Fire.
like a bleaker part of like the Godzilla minus one kind of
Yeah.
story a little bit, which is
Yes.
interesting to like just hear the post-war perspective of Japan,
Yeah.
and how they're dealing, you know what I mean? Like I think that's why why I would be drawn to it. It
Hmm.
just would seem very interesting.
Well, and there's determination, and there. It's not a hopeless thing. There are situations that he's like, yes, this will never be the same for this character, but there are also characters whose perseverance you walk away
Hmm.
like thinking like, how bad was my day today? Like, you know what I mean? Like it's there's that resilience, that human resilience that it's not a it doesn't feel hopeless and dark while also respecting the fact that sure, yeah, no, that person it's not going to work out for. But there's also this person who's fighting up this hill, mentally to change whatever. Sometimes, it's that little kid. I don't know. I really loved Shadows of Fires. That's why it's in my number 4. These all hurt to
Wow.
not be number 2, but that's just how it goes with numbering
Wow,
things.
man. That's
Um,
wild.
there we go. Lindsay, what's your number 3?
My number 3, I don't know if this is a cheat or not, but all I know is kind of in between a 2023 and 2024, depending on when the release was. But I am going to go for The Taste of Things. This, of course, stars Juliette Binoche, who directed it? Sorry, just pulling that out. Actually, Tran Anh Hyung, I'm butchering that. He is a Vietnamese, Thai, is a French director. Can't remember. This movie's gorgeous. This is set in the 19th century. It is about this kind of, I guess, manor guy, and his chef, played by Juliette Binoche, but they have a very kind of close relationship. In fact, they are romantically linked, and they like to cook. And the food scenes are incredible. I mean, the movie starts off with this almost 30-minute thing of just watching them prepare the meal of the day, which is this extravagant multi course thing where he just has his friends around and they just scoff themselves on the most amazing food. Watching Juliette Binoche make this, like, I think it's a rack of lamb, is like one of the most intense, amazing things I've ever seen. Intense in a good way. And this baked Alaska, I'm still thinking about, but it's kind of about their relationship. It's about your relationship through the art that you make and the person that it connects you to. And so it's not this, I mean, it is a period piece, but it's not in the period piece way of, say, actually, I really kind of enjoyed this, like the French version they did of the Three Musketeers, which is very like horses and carts and kind of sword fights and everything like this. This is just about a couple and how they're connected through their art. And I love how the food is always the reveal. Like you'll see something and then the reveal is what the dish is. It's incredible. I just fell in love with it. I was just smiling from ear to ear the whole time.
Yeah, I think the Three Musketeers, the French one is Les Trois Musketeers.
Yes. Just saying the French version, Le Trois Musketeers.
Ryan, have you seen this film?
Because it is French. Technically, the Three Musketeers is a very French story.
I did not see this. I had it on it's literally already in my watch list. I think because of the confusion about the dates.
Yeah.
I didn't prioritize it. It's on Hulu.
Yep.
I was like, ooh, I was going to check it out. And then I just didn't because I wasn't sure about when it came out. Because it came out in 2023 in the US and limited, but also in 2024. It's confusing. So I don't know.
We got it in February 2024. So that was the reason why I said it's like but
that's just why I just didn't prioritize it. But I already have this on my watch list. So I definitely want to check it out. And it's on Hulu. So easy to see.
Yeah, and it's anytime you have great actors and beautifully shot food, I'm gonna watch it. That's just.
I love saying this. What you said about a couple like relating to each other through their art, and that alone, I know I'm like, oh, well, that's totally my jam right there. I'm gonna love that. So I'm excited for it, but I haven't seen it, unfortunately.
All right.
Oh, it will feed you. You will feel full after eating it.
I love it. I love it.
Okay, Ryan, what's your number 3?
My number 3. Oh, I love that mug. Hey, look at that.
Oh, this old thing? Well, this is a New World Pictures podcast mug that you can get, I think, at your website.
That's right. Go to our website.
Along with some pillows and some other really cool knick-knacks. T-shirts right. Even.
All sorts of things. NewWorldPicturespodcast.com. Go order all of it. My number 3, kind of police procedural, kind of a little bit of that Michael Mann Manhunter vibe, but not at all. I'm talking Red Rooms.
Oh, yes! I almost had it on my list, and I was like, I'm going to roll the dice.
Red Rooms.
I had lost hope. This is awesome.
Love this movie. Absolutely has one of the creepiest moments I've seen in a film in a very long time.
Yep. Multiple creepy moments. Jesus Christ.
But again, I love kind of like the order. I love stories about broken people and who are kind of still doing heroic things, but it sort of shows has a really incredible view of like how different are the people that we are obviously evil and terrible, but the people that are not, and how close we are to that in a way. And I thought that was so poignant and so interesting that like there's only a hair's difference sometimes in the hero of the story and the villain of the story. And I don't know, I just was completely blown away by it. Again, another one of those movies that is just so incredibly well constructed and it just looks amazing. The two leads, I will say one small quibble with the two leads is that one of them, there's two women. One of them is a model. Her character is a model in it, and the other one is just one that's, you know, really into this particular trial.
She's a Manson
Um,
girl, essentially. Yeah.
yeah, and it's played by they're both. It's a French Canadian film. So one of them is supposed to be like, "Oh, you're so pretty," and she's not, and I'm like, "No,
Still really pretty.
you're both
Ye-
really pretty." Like
Yeah.
that was my one thing where it was like, "Wait, you're supposed to be the non-attractive one? Like you're both pretty attractive ladies." Like
They're like, she
I
sleeps
don't.
in a bush. Look how ugly this lady is.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to think she's not attractive.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't, unless you had not told me that she was like,
Yeah.
I'm unattractive, you're attractive. I wouldn't have thought that. But
I think
but
even the
that's
model calls her unattractive at one point. She's like, "You're not very attractive." I'm like, Jesus.
yeah, I was like, that's, I don't know. I didn't see that, but I just was completely into this, and I have not been able to see more of Pascal Plante's movies, but I have a bunch of them on the watch list. I want to see the other stuff that he's made because I was just really taken with this film, but also just at that look of the people that I don't want to say anything that spoils the movie, but just
Yeah.
the heroine of the story, and just the way that that was such an uncompromised look at what she was going through. I just thought was really so fascinating.
Mhm.
There's this really fascinating way that this movie deals with our fascination of wanting to see something that we know we shouldn't. Because this movie's trying to go something, what is the most evil thing that someone can do? Okay, so you're on your seat going, crap, am I actually going to see this thing that they're describing? And because I was really worried, I'm like, oh no, what am I going to actually
that was a
see?
total fear of mine. I was like, please,
I'm like,
please don't show me.
Yeah.
And then
I don't want
it's
to
like,
see.
I don't want to see what you're describing
Yeah.
at all. And
Yep.
so you're just like, oh my God, am I going to see? But there's this thing with the main character where she's going, I want to see this, which is why you're like, oh God. But there's this really interesting fascination of why you're fascinated with that. And it's not, I mean, like it's kind of goes a little bit deeper into the whole notion of why we like true crime, but it's actually this notion of wanting to see something so hideous to sate your curiosity, to know the depths. And I think that's, yeah, it's a really well done movie.
It's
It
just
freaked me
yeah.
out. Like I was sitting there in the theater going, oh God, I don't want to see any of this. You don't, but it gets to you. There's a few moments where you're like, oh shit.
No, you're right. And I think that's what really like hit me so emotionally was just that it was such a look at the depths and the evil that exists in the world, and the stuff that they're talking about that is real, that people are really into, and it's just awful to think about, but that also there is that obsession with it, and the people that are obsessed with it, and the darkness that it's sort of this very dark awful thing, and also the very darkness that people that are fascinated by it and how they I just thought that was just it was such a interesting film, and
Yeah.
I was blown away by the scope of it. I just thought I love seeing characters that like I mean we have heroes, and we can look at them that way, and and we have great movies where we just have clear heroes, but this one had real people that are like broken and damaged, and I think that's more interesting films. That's always going to resonate a bit more with me.
Yeah, I agree. This is one I didn't watch for a long time. This and there was another. I won't say the name because it might be on a list, but and then I finally pressed play because the reason I didn't watch is so many people talking about this film don't know how to talk about the film, and they're like, "Well, you're just like in a room, and then they're like talking about," and I was like, "Well, this doesn't."
And you're watching
sound...
her watching
Yeah,
something.
this
And
doesn't.
yeah.
And then that's what they always said. They're watching her, and she's watching something. Like that sounds boring. And then when you watch it, it's exactly the type of movies that I love, where it's like, it's not like talking about using directors for shorthand. The pacing of this, I don't think is slow, but it's the way that like Cronenberg would pace something so that it creeps
Yeah.
into your
Absolutely.
bones. And it's I don't know how they do what they do, but these directors that can do that with time in a film, it's more unnerving than showing you the images, because the images you'd almost be relieved to be like, okay, that's a special effect, great. But by like talking about this and sitting in a room, you're just like, whew, okay, well, I don't like how this feels, and it's so effective.
Yeah, and there's if you rewatch the movie, and I'm really excited to rewatch this one, but like the lack of cuts and the way he sort of set up a lot of those court scenes,
Yes.
like just masterfully done.
Yep.
And you have to have such a confidence, not only in like the story you're telling, but the performances. And just his lack of cutting and his ability to like set you into it. I just adored it. I think it's such a good film.
And it puts you in the mindset that you think it's not going to cut away. That's why you keep thinking, okay,
Yep.
you're almost bracing yourself. It's such a well done movie.
Yeah, I agree. All right, my number 3 is Frankie Frico.
Yeah.
Yeah, directed by Steve Kostansky. After calling a late-night party hotline that promises out-of-the-world fun, uptight yuppie Connor Sweeney must battle the pint-sized forces of evil to get unleashed through his phone line, led by the maniacal rock and roll goblin, Frankie Frico. What's there to say? I love the Astron 6 guys. I love that Steve Kostansky gets to make his, like, childhood, adulthood dreams come true by making these movies, these creature feature. I mean, they're not creature features, but these movies that are laden with so much imagination, and you know, they always evolve into some kind of Gwar-esque monster. And I had a blast with this. I was like, maybe it'll be my number 10, so I put it on the list. And then the more I rewatched it, watched behind the scenes stuff on the Blu-ray, I was like, you know what? Anything that he does brings so much joy to me. People that I had introduced Psycho Gorman to were so excited to see Frankie Frico, and they want to come over to our house and watch it. And I just like, I just love that. I can't wait to see Deathstalker. I want it so much. I can't wait for him to make it.
Yeah.
But I just love Frankie Frico. It's Ghoulie Goes to College meets a 90s 1-900 number hotline, and it's just so fun.
It's definitely a full moon like
Yeah.
love letter, and
but fun. It's a fun one. Some of those full moon movies are so serious, and then you get the goblin, and you're like, I love this part, and then they go back to talking, and you're like, I don't want this part. But this is like a blast.
I need to get the Blu-ray, and I have not ordered it yet, but I did order I bought it digitally or whatever. Bought it.
Same.
You know, it's a long-term rental, I guess.
Yeah.
But anyway. And so I could rewatch it, and I had it on my list as soon as I watched it, because I was like,
Shabadoo.
I mean, yeah. Yep. And I watched it I watched, I think, 10 minutes of it, and I laughed several times, and I was like, this is why. I mean, I could watch the rest, it would be fun, but like, yeah. And I admit, watching it the first time, I wasn't 100% on board with Frankie Frico for a bit. But then you get into it, because the rhythm, they ease you into it, and they just let you into the rhythm of what their jokes are, and like you can't help but be won over by it. And I wasn't even like the biggest Full Moon kid. I watched a lot of it, but I wasn't hugely into the Puppet Master movies and some of the Full Moon stuff. But I think this movie is fantastic. It is a blast. It is, you know, while I didn't always love all the full moon stuff, the exploitation stuff is obviously what I am into and what our podcast is about. And so how could I not love this movie and want it on my list as well? So super glad that you have this on your list this high too. I love it.
Oh yeah, it just kept crawling up. Just like there's a scene in the movie where Frankie Frico crawls up a wall, and in the making of, Steve's like, I didn't think about how we were going to have to do it, but they had to use these metal rods to move his limbs, and then he had to go in and digitally remove all these little... It was a painstaking just to make him crawl up this silly little crawl that doesn't look real by any means, but it's just... I just love that stuff so much, and that they like purposefully shot it like it was a softcore porn in the beginning, like those 90s late night. And when you see that combined with like the Ghoulies sort of thing that they're doing, it feels like Full Moon, because a lot of those Full Moon movies, you're like, is a monster going to come in here? Or are they going to get it on? Like, what is happening in this movie? And
the set that is his apartment, so looks like if the camera tilts just a hair up, you're going to see the very top of the flats.
Yes.
It just has like such a generic set look that reminds you, of like softcore or Full Moon, but also hardcore filmmaking. And so it is it's very funny. And I also wasn't, I was curious about why he used the actor for the lead, Connor Sweeney. And I don't know if he's ever been like the lead
He hasn't
of
been
one of
a
their
no,
movies.
no, he's an Astron guy, but he's never been the lead. But like
Yeah.
it wouldn't have made sense for Adam to be there, that
No, no, I think Adam is well cast
his
in what
ponytail.
with his gross ponytail. But actually, I just thought maybe he would do Matthew Kennedy, who is
Sure.
the Frankie Frico voice.
Yeah.
So I thought Connor. It took me a little bit to kind of get into the rhythm
Yeah.
with Connor, but that's the thing about this movie, that there's a couple things that I wasn't 100% sold on, but the movie will just get
Yes.
you into it. Like that's how effective he is as a filmmaker.
Hmm.
It wasn't as instant a buy-in as like PG was for
Sure.
me, but like it's still by the end I was like, yeah, 100% that's going on my list. And just watching another 10 minutes, I was like 100% this isn't going anywhere.
There's also like elements of like kind of little bit of a Manborgy situation, like towards the end of the film when it's really going crazy and they're zooming around, on like a roller coaster thing. There's like these little stop motion mixed with digital effect things that he does where I see the ambition and scope that they're doing with the budget they have, and there's just no way it's not going to be in my heart. Like I'm just like I love this because it's
Yeah.
people just being like we're doing our thing. It's not there's no one telling them how they have to do it. It's Frankie Frico, man.
I mean,
Dude.
they made a love letter to Full Moon. This was made in the year 2024.
Yes.
Like that is crazy. That
Yeah.
and in this age of movies where, where we're seeing things get more selective in movie
Hmm.
theaters, and we're seeing like studios having to figure out how they're going to handle with the streaming, and how, what our movie's going to be going forward. He was able to get this movie made.
Yeah.
Like it's just a absolute testament to him. And I'm excited for anything he does. I can't wait. Obviously, Deathstalker, I have a huge
Oh,
buy-in for, considering it
I'm
was
there.
New World at one point in time. And there's no way he can't do better than the original.
I mean, I've
Because
already
you're,
seen some of the pig head things,
yeah.
and I'm
Oh,
like,
he's putting the pig head in. Okay, good.
Uh-huh.
I
Oh, you got
mean,
to.
give it to me. I just want it so
Yeah.
badly.
So yeah.
All
Yeah,
right,
excited for it.
cool. Well, there he is on two of the lists, Frankie Frico, which brings us to Lindsay's number two. All right, she's gonna tell us all about Reagan. Feel like
Actually,
nope.
I
Oh,
actually read one. No, my number two is Evil Does Not Exist.
okay, there it is.
Okay. Okay.
This movie is gorgeous. And yes, it is Mirandering. It is I was just trying to practice his name before. Uh Raisukuki, I butchered that. Hamaguchi. I had his name before, I swear. He directed the Drive My Car, which is the 3.5 hour movie about communication, Chekhov, and a Red's being driven around in a red Saab. But this is like a 90-minute movie about this. I guess the plot is this glamping company wants to put in a glamping site in this remote town outside of Tokyo. It's winter, the locals aren't happy about it, and then the movie goes off in this other direction. But the woman who did the score also has a credit in the script because Hamaguchi kind of just followed the score, which makes sense for where the movie goes, I guess. But oh my God, it's gorgeous. That like it's got one of the best town meeting scenes I've seen in a while. The way it just kind of rises and falls is kind of gorgeous. Yeah, this movie is, I mean, that sober shop I would like to go to. And yeah, this movie is amazing.
Yeah. He initially was going to make just a 30-minute video where he was going to shoot a lot of stuff for the score, just to purely go along with the score, and then kind of grew more of a story out of it. And it's about small towns, and I think it's also about how nature and how we rely on it in a very base way. They want to come in and put in this glamping, but the
Change the environment.
they want to change the environment. The way they're going to put the septic tank in is going to affect the water supply. The water for this for the noodle shop, she moved from the city to start this shop there because the water there is more pure, and it affects the flavor of things that are going in. It's a lot of like sort of business versus like nature, and how we approach like what nature means to us, and progress business wise, and and it was just a fascinating reach. There's also a long scene where the two people tasked with selling the town on this new project have a talk about their own lives. It really is really interesting. But what I think sold it for me was the ending, which of course I'm not going to say, but it is a very, it just stuck with me. I'm not sure still what to make of it. I don't think he intended to make it very easy for you. That combined with the title was just it made me just constantly think about what he was intending with it. I read a little bit about it and I was very satisfied with what I found out, but I'm not going to mention it here because you need to see it first. I just thought this is a movie that like normally wouldn't have been as much on because it's going to open with like 10 minutes of looking up at the forest and it feels a little bit like
Lots
is
of
this
forest.
is
Yeah,
this
lots of
all we're gonna
forest.
get? Is this all this
Yep.
movie is just looking at the forest and listening to the
Yeah.
music?
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
and are there long shots of people just doing stuff?
Yeah.
Yes. But and normally I would be like, "Oh my God." But this one pulled me in. This completely drew me in and I was like, "Chop more wood, dude. I'm in. Let's do it. Let's go." And I just think the ending, if it wasn't for the ending too, I just think that it's one of those movies that at the end, it just all of a sudden you're backtracking through everything that's happened
Mhm.
and it makes you reassess the entire movie. And yeah, I agree with Lindsay. It just was it was a late entry, the latest entry of anything on my list, but it was absolutely it's absolutely a gorgeous and thoughtful and interesting film.
Yeah, and for it to enter at number 5 for you and 2 at Lindsay, that's pretty impressive. So, living in Portland, we have people come from Japan to Portland to open ramen shops. And one of the reasons is the alkalinity in our water is
Mm.
actually great for the elasticity of the noodles. And so, this movie was very much my bag. There's a lot to this tone and tempo wise, like we were talking about movies that you feel lived in. We've talked about
Hmm.
already compositions of shots, and there's a lot to this. Yeah, it's just it's a film that I'd heard I'd seen on lists, not like best films, but just on release lists, and I was like, oh, I'll watch it, not knowing what it was, and I almost stopped it when it started because I was like, oh no, this isn't what I thought I was getting for this movie. I thought, I had just watched like a South Korean action movie. I was like, I thought I was getting that.
Yeah.
We're not doing that here, despite the title. Uh, that for some reason gave me that vibe. But yeah, it's really impressive, and I did not have it on my list, which feels like a misstep. But hey, Frankie Frico. Perfect. Ryan, what's your number two?
Number two, gosh, we're getting to it, and I'm really nervous for what I've left off. But oh well, let's move forward. My number two is Dee Dee.
Ah, I saw
Yes,
you
I
rated
saw.
this so high. Okay.
Yeah, for a while was my number one, and is now my number two. I'm much older than Sean Wang, who directed this movie, but boy, did I connect with it. It's, a coming of age story, and it's about a kid in Fresno, California, which is Northern California, Lindsay, and Dirk, because I don't know how much you know about California, but it's sort of like a very small town, like northern, sort of more in the center of the state, and it has an incredible performance by Isaac Wang, who's no relation, I don't believe, to Sean, but is plays this kid and is truly a teenager. And there's just an element of like that when you're a teenager and you're trying to find who you are and you're trying to find out who you are and how you maybe become somewhat performative because you think that that might be cool. It has all those kinds of elements to it, and it just felt like so real to me. And the way that Isaac Wang plays it, and being a real teenager, with acne and everything on his face, and not just played by a 20-year-old, who just looks kind of young. And yet he has this maturity in him that he's able to play like the naivete and the stupidity of the moments that we experience, and then like kind of recognize that and play the emotion of internalizing it, but not knowing what to do to say about it. Like it's those kinds of moments that I was like, holy crap. I mean, have we not all been there? He plays a kid who has an older sister. His older sister's about to go to college. His mom and dad are immigrants, I believe, from Taiwan. They live with their grandmother, who's actually his father's mother, but the dad is never around. He's always on business. And the mother then just gets constantly harangued by the grandmother. And the grandmother here just feels like it just feels so real and so lived in. It feels like absolutely like not acting like real human beings. The relationship he has with his sister felt so authentic. There's just an authenticity to Dee Dee that I just really just got moved by it and was like, I don't know if it's like the California thing. My dad's an immigrant, but like not obviously from Taiwan and not, in the same way. I did have grandparents that would talk about, you know, Scotland and things like that, but it's not the same thing as Taiwan. But there is a little bit of that I could also get into. But there's just, I think it's really just about it's such an authentic experience because it's really truly like the teenage experience and how we're just trying to find out who we are. And I was just completely moved by it and just it was immediately my number one until I found my number one.
Wow. Lindsay, did you see Dee Dee?
No, I heard something about it was about like early YouTube, and so I didn't want to see it. And then I kept hearing how amazing it is. So it was kind of on my list, but I didn't get a chance to see it.
Yeah, I didn't watch it either. I saw Ryan ranked it really high on the Letterboxd,
Yeah,
and then I watched something else.
me
So,
too.
but
Yeah, I think is getting some, recognition from people, but not enough. And again, I think the script is incredibly real and the way he treated it. And again, this isn't how I grew up because he's dealing with like chat rooms and the beginnings of Facebook and things
sure,
like that
sure.
that I'm way too old to have had in my own. But and yet there's still parts of it that still felt like I was seeing part of my experience as a teenager growing up.
Mhm.
And I just think the performance by the lead, there's a bunch of great performances in this, including the mother, but the lead of the kid just is such a great performance. It's so I just was blown away by it. And I have to think because the script was just something he could so easily latch onto because it's such a real experience. Probably because I think it's based a little bit on Sean Wang's actual, he grew up in Fresno, and so I think a lot of it was just taken from his own life. But yeah, just an incredible
All right.
coming of age story.
Love it. At number two, Dee Dee. You've got Frankie, Dolly, and Dee Dee on there. That sounds like interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
got the whole gang.
Nice.
Mm.
My number two is Riddle of Fire, directed by Weston Rizzoli. It's an action comedy. Three mischievous children embark on a woodland odyssey in order to retrieve a blueberry pie. Along the way, they evade a gang, encounter a witch, grow closer together as friends. I saw it on 35 millimeter at the Hollywood Theater with Fog Weaver, one of the bands that's on the soundtrack.
Nice,
Also, Brian Trenchard Smith was there because we watched Frog Dreaming in the same double feature.
Very
amazing.
nice.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
it ruled. So, look, it's an indie film with a D&D quest vibe. The kids are on motorbikes in the woods. I liked this movie. I watched it. I saw the trailer, and my wife was like, absolutely not. And I was like, in my head, I was like, I can't watch this fast enough.
Yeah.
So I waited till she went to sleep. I watched it, and I liked it a lot. But it was the seeing it on in the theater with an audience. I can't even imagine a film like this getting. I mean, the gorgeous Hollywood theater, packed house, watching it with somebody who contributed to the soundtrack in the audience, and it just won me over completely. It's just so good. It's actually of physical releases of the year. This Blu-ray is one of the most gorgeous things I have seen. It's just absolutely beautifully created and hilarious. It's one of those films where you feel the intent of everything going on. In the making of, the cinematographer talks about blowing out the color and how purposefully they did that. They were using different types of film stock and everything. Like, it's just in the day and age of now, digital things that are cheaper, whatever it is, the people that go through these painstaking details to tell the stories the way that they want to tell them, it's just there's something special about it. And these are those types of movies that I end up championing. I end up watching by myself over and over and over until I convince somebody else to watch it. Riddle of Fire is a very unique, fun film. And like we keep saying, not for everybody, but for me, I was like, this was a number one for a long time. And And it's not now. It's my number 2, but it's still high up there. So that is Riddle of Fire. Anybody?
I'm annoyed I did not put this on your prediction list because I saw this at a festival, and so it was last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember messaging you going, you need to see Riddle of Fire. If this is a Dirk movie, this is the definition of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this and Freddie Franco. I cannot wait for the Ryan and Dirk episode where they just talk about these movies and just giggle their asses off at it because it's got that feel to it. I love how the kids are assholes, like in the best way though.
Yeah.
I do like Psycho Goreman, but I think the kids get a bit too psychotic. A little bit, but this movie, they're the perfect amount of asshole. And just the way that speckled egg and that random blue kid near the end, I'm like, and they never explain him, and it's amazing. Yeah, it's just a really wonderful movie. It's just, you can tell it's pulling from so many things that shouldn't be put into this movie, but it is. It's like the Dungeons and Dragons and the heavy metal and the surrealism, but it's also got a Escape from Witch Mountain or the Apple kind of thing, kids. This Disney kind of live action feel to it as well, and it's a really special little movie.
Yeah, there you go.
I did not see it, but Dirk told me about it, and so I ordered the Blu-ray. So
Yes,
I've already ordered it a while ago.
Is it Vinegar Syndrome or?
It is actually through Vinegar Syndrome. I believe it's like a VSP. It's Vinegar Syndrome Pictures. Yeah. So I already ordered it, but it has not arrived yet. So I was like, you couldn't watch it streaming without renting it. So I was like, nope, I'm going to wait until I get the disc and then I will watch it. So I knew I wasn't going to watch this in advance, but I had a good feeling that Dirk would pick it, and I was right.
there it is.
I completely forgot about it, and I'm annoyed.
Well, I hope you enjoy it. I had no choice but to love it. All right, it's that time. Lindsay, what is your number 1?
Number one, surprising no one. It is The Substance.
Yes. This is what I moved off my list. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah, this movie is a masterpiece. When I saw it, I did not think that as many people were going to connect to it as they did, just because Revenge, even though this is a huge step up from Revenge, Coralie Fajar's first movie, I did not think that this movie was going to get Academy Award nominations, let alone Best Director and Best Picture. I did not think that this would kind of be one of the movies that defined the year. I mean, it's distributed by Mubi, of all things, who've got a really good awards campaign office going on.
Did you hear how it ended up at Mubi?
Yeah, it's because Universal wanted to change the ending. Which,
isn't that crazy?
Yes, Coralie, like, it needs that ending. Like, if you don't have that ending, it doesn't. Oh my God, Monster Lizard is my best friend.
So good.
That ending is fucking chef's kiss.
Like, you're gonna cut that off the movie and like neuter the entire situation. Like, Universal, you're so silly. Like,
I think
so silly.
I think even if they'd gotten away with cutting it down a little bit, they could have tried to do that, and that would have been also a huge mistake.
Yeah,
and if people don't like that ending, like the way she continues to push.
Yep.
And then you could have ended it, but she continues to push. I was like, I'm blown away by her.
Yeah,
She is unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Yeah, the fact that she's referencing Brian Usner and Screaming Mad George and a movie that is now being nominated for Academy Awards, it just is blowing my mind.
Incredible.
I mean, I saw this in a packed theater at a festival. Everyone was cheering. There was a buzz about this movie. Like, oh, have you seen The Substance? No. Talk to me when you've seen The Substance, kind of thing. But I love how I've never seen body dysmorphia shown in this way before, which I think is just so amazing. I love kind of the fairy tale elements, that it's the hag versus the princess, the fact that Margaret Qualley is dressed in blue like she's Cinderella. There are so many things going on in it. Yes, it's not subtle. It's not meant to be. I mean, this movie references The Shining and Vertigo and freaking Brian. I don't want to say the movie that Brian Usner did, because if you know the ending, you know the movie I'm talking about. But it's everything about this movie just worked for me. I was just fully in love with it, thinking, okay, this is just my movie. And the fact that a certain part of the world has embraced it makes me so happy. And yeah. Demi Moore's fantastic. Michael Colley's fantastic. Dennis Quaid's having a hell of a year playing Harvey Weinstein and Ronald Reagan. I mean, it's
some of our best.
It's yes, exactly. It's The Substance. The rules.
Ryan?
Yeah. I'm so glad you picked this. I absolutely had this, and I was so nervous it wasn't going to make it. And I was like, did I push this out? And what a mistake. No, I love this, and I love revenge. That
Me too.
it just that movie was like when I saw it was like holy crap! Like what a debut! And this one was such a step forward too, and in the design. We've mentioned Cronenberg. This was such nice hat tips to Cronenberg and the
Yep.
design and the way the production design went in this. The
Just pure body
performances
horror.
amazing. Margaret Qualley also having an incredible year.
Mhm.
Yeah.
She's in Drive-In Dolls.
Driving Dolls and Kinds of Kindness, which I really do. I think I like that movie a lot more than a lot of other people, but she's really fun in it.
She really stepped it up. Of course, Demi Moore, my God.
Woo.
And I think that, for me, what really resonated, because there's so much about it that I think for women will resonate on such a high level. And again, not subtle, but still worth seeing. And I think very strongly and well told. But I love that dichotomy, and why I wanted to put it on the list. My list was the young versus the old, and the way that that battle is happening, the way that the old don't like the young and the way the young hate the old. I felt like that was all like on top of everything else that she's already saying so well, and so and in such an effective way. As you were saying, Lindsay, like the body horror of this was just unbelievable and so incredibly well done. But I love that element of like there is that divide, that old and young, and the hatred
The
between the
kitchen
two
scene
sides.
is when I fell in love with the movie. When Demi Moore is talking to Margaret Qualley, because they are one, but they can never share the same space with each other. So Demi Moore's literally having a conversation with an interview Margaret Qualley gave, and she's in the kitchen like a freaking old, like the Wicked Witch, like a old witch, like conjuring. She's making French food, but she's conjuring something in a bowl, yelling at her, and it's yes, it speaks so much to that.
Yeah. I also love, and I hope this is an aspect of every movie that Coralie makes from now on, is that there is a curved hallway in the back of every house.
Yes.
I hope that that is a signature so far in her films, and I
That
absolutely love it. As
And
well
it
as
goes on forever. I love how she uses that. It's just
I
like,
love
how
it.
long is this hallway?
And her commitment to long uninterrupted shots.
Yep.
And again, that ending just pushed and pushed and pushed, and I think if I wasn't already sold on how brilliant it was already, that ending where she was like, no, I'm not done, I'm still not done, I'm definitely not done yet. I was
You
like,
think I'm done? Oh, wait until I start playing Etta James. And I'm like, yes.
hats off, lady, that was something else. I can't wait to
Yeah.
see what she does next. She's a superstar. Incredible film.
Yeah, I loved the substance. When we were in London, they had it on the side of buses, even, and I was like, "This is wild." That like,
My partner knew about the substance. I'm
yeah.
like, how?
Oh, my wife's mom was like, "I want to see that new Demi Moore movie," and we were like, "No, no, 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 no. You don't want to see that in the theater." Like, and she's like, "What are you talking about?" We were like explaining what it was, and I was like, "It's great that a movie like that can get that kind of new, fresh eyes on it, not just people that like Corley's films or the subject matter, but but." You do need to give people a heads up sometimes. Like,
Yes,
hey, hey,
we were
hey.
seeing it once. Yeah, we're in a theater watching it another time because I've seen this movie like 3 times already. And yes, I do realize it's 2.5 hours. There was this couple in front of us who we found out afterward had gone into the wrong theater. They were meant to
Nice.
see It Ends With Us, and they ended up in the substance.
Oof.
And
Nice.
and one loved it, one hated. I'm like, yeah, that
Sure.
sounds about right.
Yeah.
I feel like we need to apologize. So
And
you not
I-
going when
And I
you-
also don't like that, like, Corley's film, like, people kept saying that. They kept being like, well, what's happening is not subtle. It's like, well, that's not the intent of what this person's
No.
doing. Like, you wouldn't go to, like, Django Unchained and be like, well, this isn't subtle. Like, why isn't
Right,
Tarantino
right.
being subtle? It's like, no, these directors are telling their story. This is what the story is. And I thought that all the themes and everything were great. I thoroughly enjoyed the film and all the cool gross stuff and the acting. I mean, I don't know, just everything about it. I just sound like an idiot talking about it because there's just nothing. I have nothing to nitpick. I have nothing. Like, I'm
Right.
like, this is great. This is great. This is great. There's a reason all of us love this movie because it's the substance and it's
I
perfect.
mean, it's not as subtle as Sonic 3, but at the
Ooh,
same time, that's
that's
not any knock on
true.
it. But
Well, they originally
Well, something-
Knuckles was popping up towards the end of this film, but they cut it. She cut it. She decided
Yeah.
that was actually the original
That was the
ending.
one compromise she made was that
Yeah.
she cut out
She's
Knuckles.
like,
Yep.
I have Knuckles
Yeah.
in
But
here.
disappointing, but yeah.
You know.
yeah, sometimes you gotta cut. You gotta kill your babies sometimes. You know.
That's true. That's true. Sorry, Knuckles.
So,
Okay, Ryan, what is your number one?
oh shit. Okay. My number one, this was not one I saw coming. And again, I had Dee Dee at the top for a long time.
Oh my
But my
gosh.
number one is Ghostlight. This is
So
about a construction worker who finds himself in a local theater production suddenly, of Romeo and Juliet. And you suddenly learn like a little bit more about his family and find out that there's some similarities in the tragedy that his family is dealing with. It's directed by a married couple, Alex Thompson and Kelly O'Sullivan, who made St. Francis, which I have not seen, but I want to. And this, Kelly O'Sullivan wrote St. Francis and Alex Thompson directed it. Now they co-directed this, and she wrote the script. And it stars an actor, a Chicago actor named Keith Kupferer, as the lead character, and he is just brilliant. It feels very much like an absolutely just realized human being. And on top of it, not that this is always necessary, but the woman who plays his wife is his actual wife. They're both theater actors in Chicago. And then the girl who plays his daughter, his teenage daughter, is actually their daughter, who's also an actor as well. And so the family dynamic in this was just absolutely like felt 100% real. And I got caught up in the tragedy of this. I'm getting choked up just thinking about it, but it really resonated with me and it felt very, very real. I'm absolutely floored by the script and how she was able to capture it, what this family's going through and how they deal with what's happening with him starting to do theater and the way it brings his family, breaks them apart and pulls them back together. It just felt very real. The rest of the cast made up of local Chicago actors, so it just felt like such a real place. And somebody who did theater a lot in my life and done plays, I love the element of how theater can transform us, how it can help us, how it can be healing, how it can also be difficult and hard to embrace and silly and dumb. And there's stupid things in it that we do when you do theater. So there's a lot of that, but also just the way they dealt with tragedy was just had me in tears, this movie. And I just absolutely adored it. And it's a tiny little movie I had not even heard of. And all of a sudden it popped up and I just said, all right, I'll watch this, not expecting to go on the ride I went. And I just I'm floored by it and floored by the performances. The main guy, Keith Kupfer, has been in a bunch of movies. If you look at the movies he's been in, they're all like the characters he plays are like the position of the person, you know what I mean? Like waiter or it's like
Janitor.
stuff like that. So, and this guy now being in a lead role, he's, clearly somewhere in his late middle age, 50s kind of thing. And holy crap, what a performance. I just was just absolutely floored by this movie. And yeah, it just leapt into my number one. Just so moved by it.
That's awesome. I haven't heard of it or seen it.
it was on my list of things to watch. I didn't get a chance, but I need
Nice.
to see this because I've heard similar things that it is absolutely incredible. So
I hope I'm not overselling it and doing it a disservice because I just
I
think
mean,
this is
it's your
like
number one, so that's
it's a number one from me.
yeah.
So that doesn't mean that may not mean anything if you have questioned my other choices. But I absolutely love this movie.
Perfect. All right, number one for Ryan is Ghostlight. My number one, Ryan already alluded to it earlier. It's Cuckoo by Tillman Singer.
yes.
17-year-old Gretchen reluctantly leaves America to live with her father at a resort in the German Alps. Plagued by strange noises and bloody visions, she soon discovers a shocking secret that concerns her own family. I obviously loved the Luz, his first film, and I couldn't believe it when I was hearing about this movie same time as like The Substance and some others films, and I was like, it's gonna be in theaters, and people are like, yeah, and I was like, in English, and they're like, yeah, and I was like, okay, I don't see how this is gonna work. Well, it still feels like it's a foreign film. It's Tillman's thing, and what I really love about these films, its use of sound is just super fascinating to me. And so when I got to finally see this film, it did not disappoint. The cinematography, the composition of shots, the weirdness. I've seen it 4 times. The incredible performance by Hunter Schafer just blows me away. I can't believe that this was like part of the conversation around Longlegs and everything. Like this guy's movie was snuck in the conversation of these things, and people were seeing it and not liking it and not getting it. And from an American movie watching standpoint, yeah, we want answers. We want things spelled out for us. We want those things. And if we don't get them, we don't like it. People didn't like it for other reasons, I'm sure. But it's a vibe, and it's 100% my jam. That Hunter's like playing the bass on this band, and so it's playing music and listening to it, and having the sister who has a hearing deficit, and I mean Martin DuPont's on the soundtrack. That band is a band no one talks about, and like reminded me that they exist, and they had an album come out this year, and I was just like, oh, like this is all things I absolutely love. So Cuckoo was number one the second I watched it, and then the more times I watched it, the more I tried to put these other movies ahead of it, and there just wasn't something that, like, we all talked about vibes in this conversation, and for me, the vibe of this movie and some of the imagery with the bird lady and stuff is just like, I'm sorry, but like it's in my bones, and I can't shake it, I can't change it. I've never been popular, but I've always been me, and that's like what this movie feels like, and so I couldn't push it any other place. I got the Blu-ray, and you know, if Second Sight puts this out with a booklet and charges me $70, I look forward to paying $70.
It's a very Second Sight movie, actually, so that might
It
happen.
is.
Yeah.
It could
So
be.
that's my number one, Cuckoo.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I love Cuckoo's about, you can read a lot of things into Cuckoo, which I actually really liked about it. I mean, there's a very, not just German, but Bavarianness to it, which can go very, very dark, especially when you find out what kind of Dan Stevens is actually doing. Though him with the German accent might be my favorite thing. And I will say, no one turns his head quite like Dan Stevens. I mean, he does it. There's this amazing head turn in The Guest. There is an amazing head turn in Abigail, and there's an amazing head turn when you first see him at the hotel and he turns around. He's just the way he turns his head. I don't know. It's just magic. No, this is a really fun movie. I did like it a lot. Bird Lady is great. We should hang. But no, I think she'd be a good time, apart from what she's actually doing to the no, I know what she's doing to those people. But the imagery is really cool, and you can tell it is absolutely filmed in South Germany because it is that place. Like there's something about it that's so kitschy and 70s that they refuse to modernize about it, and you can just feel Hunter Schafer's frustration that she just wants to be a modern teenager and yet she can't. It's kind of incredible.
Also, like the feeling of that character feeling trapped and displaced, and those feelings are like, I didn't expect to have an emotional resonance in the film. I was slow to clue in that she's leaving messages on her dead mom's answering machine. Like
me too.
I thought she was calling her mom and her mom wasn't around. My wife is faster to pick up on stuff like that in movies. So like, as the story tells you that, it just really worked for me in a way that like on rewatching it, I felt that sadness way earlier. Got goosebumps just now, but it's like, yeah, and she just feels trapped, and she can't even reveal who she is to her family, like her sexuality and things. And I just think this movie is so adept at telling all these storytelling points, but without hitting you over the head with it. And so yeah, I forgot to even mention that part. I was just like, oh my gosh, there's too many things I love about it. But
it's really funny as well, mainly
Yes.
Dan Stevens. With him with the friggin' flute, I'm just like, yes. But it's got a very tongue-in-cheek-ness to it as well. I need to watch this movie again because I was a little colder on it, but there were things I really enjoyed about it, so I think I need to go back and watch it.
He's playing a young Christoph Waltz, is what I thought. Dan
Yes.
Stevens, or a younger, let's just say, and and a girl who just wants to, be left alone and play her bass. Like, man, I can't there's no way I can't get behind that.
Yeah.
As a guy who also plays bass, and no sign language. So yeah, there's a lot of that movie that I liked. It didn't hit me as hard as you did, but I'm kicking myself. I didn't put it as number one on your list. I should have, but I got thrown by I Am Conan. So
yeah.
yeah.
I
Well,
get it.
I should trust my instincts, but I didn't.
Wait till you hear my guesses for you. There were a lot.
I hope it's Sonic 3. I mean,
There were a lot of mentions. Did you have anything you guys wanted to shout out before we do our predictions?
100%. Yeah. Go ahead, Lindsay.
I think my runners up is All We Imagine as Light, Love Lies Bleeding, Anora, which I think I really, really liked. Last Stop in Yuma County.
Yep.
Furiosa and Longlegs were my runners up.
All right. Ryan,
So
what do you got?
basically, I could have done another top 10, is what I'm saying.
Seriously.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I hear you on Furiosa. That was in my list at one point in time too. Also
too.
the Fall Guy, which I really, really loved. Speaking of action movies, Land of Bad. That was in
Nice.
the list at one point in time. I really loved that director. I loved Underwater. Really dug Land of Bad. Totally different styles, though they're both kind of action movies to a degree. But like, I'm really curious what he does next. He's just really a guy to watch. Strange Darling. I saw it too recently, but boy, I really got into that. That's also being dismissed with like Quentin Tarantino. I see, and I'm like, really? I don't see any Quentin Tarantino stuff in that movie. I can see where you might criticize the film, but I don't.
That's like
maybe the time, the way he moves shifts back and forth in time.
That's what it is. It's someone who hasn't seen movies where they switch time, and so they're like, "Well, I saw the Tarantino movie, so."
Right.
Like,
and look, I admit when I saw Pulp Fiction in 1994, I was also like, "Whoa." Blown away, but this one does not do that exactly.
No.
It does things a little bit differently. But I hadn't seen a movie like that, but that was 1994. Thelma.
Yeah.
Love Thelma. I thought Thelma was a blast. Just so sweet. Shadow Strays.
Yep.
Incredible film. That was on my list for a little bit.
Same.
Again, these are just movies I know I'll watch again. I loved.
Yep.
I really dug them. I saw Furiosa already a couple times. And then also My Old Ass.
Yep.
Oh, it's very sweet, that one. Yes, yeah.
Really dug that one, and that one snuck up on me. Also, Snack Shack. It was going to be like a lot of lists of coming-of-age movies, but I just stuck with Dee Dee instead.
Yeah, I got Oddity. I loved Damien McCarthy's Oddity.
I had Oddity in my list for
it was in my top 3 for a long time, but I felt like there's enough eyes on that from the horror community. So Cuckoo went out.
I swore in German at a specific jump scare for no reason and not any. Like, it just took me so much by surprise.
Also in horror, King Tide. I really liked King Tide a lot.
Oh, didn't see that one.
In Chinese action, The Comeback was on my list.
Okay.
It got beat out the last second. Immaculate was paired up with The First Omen for a while, as one of these nun movies might make it in there. The documentary Will and Harper, I thought was incredibly lovely. I saw the TV Glow. I really enjoyed that movie a lot, but other people have been far more articulate. The release of Prime
soundtrack of the year, really.
Yeah.
For I saw the TV Glow. Like, I want to get that soundtrack on vinyl so bad it's sold out. So A24, please resupply the soundtrack to I Saw the TV Glow. Totally my jam.
Primevals was finally finished and released, so people can see that stop motion film. Very enjoyable. It's a big year for puppet movies. We had Frankie Frico, Starvaker, Abruptio, and Vortilac.
Vortilac is what I was talking about in terms of a vampire movie.
Yeah,
earlier.
That
Vortilac's amazing.
Vortilac's...
If that puppet showed up, I was like, yes and please.
The puppet work is incredible in that movie.
Oh.
Yeah, and Starvaker, I don't know if you guys saw that movie, but...
No.
Which one?
Starvaker.
No.
So it's got Matt Smith, who I guess was a Doctor Who guy or something.
Uh-huh.
But it's got a rabbit puppet creature thing in it. Really interesting. Like it's got like the hatching vibes that Lindsay and I had talked about before on one of our top films.
Another cool puppet movie.
Yeah. And Abruptio is very unnerving. I don't know if you guys saw that movie, but very, very disturbing. But let's talk about some predictions here. Who thinks they had the most correct on anyone's? I have 2 for Lindsay and none for Ryan. Is that possible?
You had none for me? Let me see. I have
3 for Ryan, and
I have 6 for you, Dirk.
Whoa!
I'm
so predictable.
I have 5 for you, Lindsay.
Dang. Okay.
Wow.
Me, I knew I was going to be predictable, but
okay.
You want me to go down it then?
Let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do.
Okay. My order is poor.
Let's do
but I
Lindsay.
just kind of got movies. I don't think I had time to. I just put movies I thought you guys would pick, but I didn't have a chance to kind of reorder it.
Okay.
With the exception of 1 for Dirk, but 2 for Dirk, but I was wrong on them. But anyway, number 10, I put Hundreds of Beavers.
For me?
Which was Hundreds of Beavers was for you. Which I did get. Number 9, Riddle of Fire.
Nice.
8, 8, Shadow of Fire.
Nice.
7, I put Deadpool and Wolverine.
Well, if we were talking about theater experiences, that would have been, yeah.
I just thought it might creep in because I know you had a great time
Yeah,
watching
yeah,
it.
I sure did.
And 6, I put River.
Oh, God, I didn't even think that was this year. But yeah, that would have been
Yeah,
up
I
there.
didn't think so either, and I'm so bummed because I have not watched it yet, and I have the Blu-ray, and I really want to check it out. And
God,
I'm
I
like,
can't wait for you to see
crap,
it.
that's this year. I could have had an
Yeah.
excuse to just push that, So I'm bummed. But anyway,
God, they're
Meanwhile
great.
on Earth, number 5.
Nice.
Rebel Ridge, number 4.
Oh, yep. I did enjoy it. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
3, I Saw the TV Glow.
Nice.
2, Cuckoo,
Yeah.
and 1, I Am Conan.
Okay. Cool. Okay.
So, Lindsay, I had number 10, Evil Does Not Exist.
Nice.
Mhm.
Number 9, Red Rooms.
Nice.
Mhm.
I thought you were going to follow me on that one. 8, The First Omen, which I
Yep.
got. 7, Kneecap.
Oh, I did love that movie. Yes.
I did really like it, and
Mm.
boy, was I blown away that those guys were actually themselves.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, these are those guys? This is
I
a
thought it was
bio- First of all, a biopic? I didn't realize it was a biopic.
Playing
'cause I
themselves?
was just
Yeah.
unaware.
Yeah.
And then they
I thought it
were
was a
actually the
documentary.
guys?
I went in literally thinking it was a documentary, and then I went, "Wait, this is a Hard Day's Night."
Yeah, I did not know
Yeah.
of them at all. So to me, this was all very new. But to like realize they're the main guy, and I would say the guy that's their DJ, I thought
He is so good,
he's so
And he's-
good.
Yeah.
and he
What a
was
good actor.
and he's a literal teacher.
Yeah, I mean, I was
DJ.
like, holy shit, like that was so good. Anyway, number
Yeah.
6, The Brutalist.
Oh, yep, I did very much love that movie. Yeah.
Number 5, Challengers.
Yes.
Number 4, The Substance.
Yep.
Number 3, Nosferatu.
Mhm.
2, Anora. And number 1, The Seed of the Sacred Fig.
I did really love that movie. I think it
Mm.
was either that or The Cake. Just in terms of Iranian movies that had to be smuggled out of Iran. But yeah, I think it left me really numb just because it does show footage of the protests, the Hajib protests, and you do see some wild police brutality, just like police cars ramming into people. It's insane. But that movie's amazing. It's just this family that's a microcosm of what Iran has turned into, and I wildly recommend it.
Yeah, I think I saw that you had recommended it so highly, so I had it on my list to see, but it's actually playing in LA, but only in a couple select theaters, and I just didn't have time to, especially with fires and everything else, I
Yeah.
just didn't have time to go out and see it. And then it just popped up, I think now to be able to rent, but I just haven't had a chance to see it, but I completely had it on my radar because of you, and I just thought, okay, I thought you might put it on your list as a result, but that's because I didn't know about it until I saw your review, and I was like, oh, well then I should see it, and I will,
Yeah.
but I haven't seen it yet.
The one thing is that it does have a way more hopeful ending than the My Favorite Cake, because it is about people, because there are still people fighting for change and all that kind of thing. But yeah, it can be a very brutal movie at times. Yeah.
Okay, my 10 predictions for Lindsay. I had only 2 that were right. Number 10, I had Red Rooms. So
Yep.
no. Number 9, Moana 2. Number 8, Inside Out 2. Some of these, it was late.
Yeah.
Number 7, Wicked. Okay, well.
Yeah.
Number 6, A Real
I liked
Pain.
Wicked.
I thought
Oh, I did like A Real Pain.
I
have a thing for Karen Culkin, so
enjoyed
yes.
A Real Pain, and I thought it might be on. Those men aren't old enough to be on one of Ryan's lists, but they.
Yeah.
Number 5, Amelia Perez.
Yeah, I'm kind of cooled on that movie now. I'm thinking
Yeah.
about it more, but yeah, I still like it.
I don't even know what it is. Number 4, The Substance. Number 3,
Yeah.
Anora. Number 2, Nosferatu, and number 1, I had The Brutalist. And then
That movie is sticking with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then we'll move to
That score is just amazing though.
we'll
You
move-
just want to walk into that bum 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 just to announce yourself.
and then Ryan's.
Yes.
Number 10, I had Bad Boys Ride or Die.
Mm-hmm.
When you said procedural, I was like, here we go. Number 9,
Yeah.
Conclave. They're
I haven't
old.
even seen it yet.
Those
Haven't
are
seen it.
old guys.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I did have
I
an
will
old
say-
guy. I did have an old guy pick because
Yeah.
I had Life After Fighting was my old
Right,
guy
okay,
pick.
Okay.
That was on the list early on.
That's
But
fair.
that movie is 2 movies, and I
Yeah.
ultimately just couldn't
Yeah.
stick with it. But I loved a good old man pick. But
Yeah.
yeah, Conclave is filled with them, but I haven't seen it yet.
Okay. Number 8, Civil War.
Loved it. Did like it a lot, but no.
Number 7, Substance. Number 6, Dune Part 2.
I like the Dune movies. They're good.
All right. Number 5, The Beekeeper.
We we took the kids.
Huh?
We saw it in the movie theater.
See, I
Gotta
listened.
protect the hive.
No-
There needed to be at least 30 to 40 more bee puns, but that's my only criticism. Everything else, no notes.
Yeah. Number 4, Furiosa. Number
Yeah,
3,
George Miller made another movie, everybody. Come on.
Yeah.
Everybody celebrate.
Number 3, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
I saw it in the
Actually,
theater.
that was
but-
surprisingly good. That was actually surprisingly better than I thought it was. Also, Kevin Durant.
Number
Yes,
Number
yes.
2, Twisters.
I mean, these are ones we saw with the kids.
This
Yeah.
one's only on there because the guy that's in that one that everyone loves, that guy, Glenn something.
Oh, Glenn
Yeah,
Powell.
Glenn
yeah.
Powell.
Yeah, because I was gonna pick his Hitman movie, but that technically was 2023. So you ended up with Twisters because I just thought, yeah, he seems like Ryan would like that guy. And number
I mean,
1,
I do own the Blu-ray, and we did see it with the kids, but it's really more for like the Twister of it. I didn't love Twisters as much.
Number
but-
1, for the same reason that you thought my theater experience of Wolverine and the Deadpool would be on my list, for your theater experience, Alien Romulus.
It was the best 4DX that I saw. Yeah,
Right?
the best
I mean, we
4DX
talked about it,
experience that I've
so
had.
I was
Yeah,
like, it's got to be
true.
on there, but
No, 4DX is such a funny, stupid way to watch a movie. It's totally unnecessary. One of my favorite I've seen anything in 4DX was taking our daughter, and we went and saw Morbius in 4DX. Just a
Good.
chef's kiss experience for a stupid movie.
good use of money.
Yes,
Lindsay, what?
it is an unnecessary. And for my birthday a couple years ago, Erica got tickets for us to go see in 4DX, go see Halloween Ends.
All right.
4DX.
Let's not try to end on a down note. Lindsay,
I mean, I had so much more fun because of the dumb 4DX of it, just with them stabbing me in the back or blowing air by my ears in an unnecessary way. Like, all that stuff is so dumb and it's not needed, and it just makes me laugh.
okay.
But Alien Romulus actually absorbed and got me into it because they moved the chairs forward and you felt like you were in zero gravity, and it really actually worked really super well. My buddy and I that saw it together were both like, that was actually really great. Normally 4DX is just a silly way to give the theater more of your money, but
Yeah.
Perfect.
Lindsay, did you have your
I
predictions?
do. I don't have 10. I just realized counting through because I was just throwing down things and I realized they're not really in order and they're not in 10. So I do
Okay.
apologize. But for Dirk, I put Exuma down
Nice.
as the one, my
Yep.
Korean pick.
Loved it.
I put, instead of red, I put humanist, vampire, seeking consenting human
Yeah.
to end their
Both were on my
suicidal
list.
human or whatever it is.
Yep.
But that was on your list last year, wasn't it?
No.
Oh, no?
It was on,
Okay.
might have been on my list last year because I got confused about thingies, but or a thingy. But yeah, it seemed like a movie he would like. And then
Yeah.
I realized, oh wait, this is a 2024 movie. I saw the TV Glow.
Mhm.
I did put Cuckoo down. Freddy Freako, Strange Darling. I put quite high up there, but I don't know why. And then number 1, I put She Is Conan.
Nice.
For Ryan, I've got Land of Bad,
Ah.
Azrael, Memoir of a Snail,
Ah, okay.
Honora, Rebel Ridge, Freddy Freako, The Order, and then Shadow Strays.
Nice.
Several of those were in the list.
Mm.
Yeah, and I did like Memoir of a Snail. So you were close, but I really had to.
That's so hard. The 10.
Good guesses. Good guesses.
Yes, I was really annoyed to put was gonna choose Azrael. I was
I started to write it down too. I was like, nice. Okay. We're not doing that one.
No.
Nope. Oops, not
Nope.
that one.
No, I'm gonna choose a horror movie that wasn't on my list. Okay.
Wow. Well, I just want to say thank you both for, I can't even imagine the hours of films that you watched for this episode, but I know it was a lot for me. And thank you both for being here, for doing this yet again. I look forward to this every year. We just celebrated
so much fun.
a ridiculous amount of films, and I know that people enjoy these episodes. They write them down, they go out and seek out these films, and that's kind of the whole point of it all. Thank you for being a part of that. Lindsay, where can people find you?
They can find me at the Schlock and Awe podcast, which can be found on most of the pods. You can follow me at Reading Geek or Schlock and Awe 1 on Blue Sky, Instagram, and Letterboxd.
And Ryan, where can
Yeah,
people find you?
just go to our website, newworldpicturespodcast.com. That's where you can find out all of that. You can find our socials there if you want to find us, though we are also on Blue Sky, and I don't think our Blue Sky is on there. Very much enjoying that. And and you can buy our mugs and
look at that.
t-shirts
Oh,
and all
gosh.
sorts of stuff there. And yeah, just go to our website.
Thank you very much. Thanks again, both of you. As always, I'm Dirk Marshall, and this is VHS, where when it comes to celebrating rad films and even radder friends, we're not done yet.